Hello, and welcome to Episode 1 of the Tainted Lands, Shadows of the City. We are a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play stream, and while I'm calling this Episode 1, this is our second campaign, and all of the characters are actually 5th level, and we've played together for at least 13 other sessions. My name is RJ Cresswell, and I'm the Dungeon Master. We're going to meet everyone else shortly, but first, it's been a few weeks since we last played, and last time we played, it was the last session of our first campaign. In that campaign, your characters came together in the village of Morton to form a party to help a goblin named Sweetroll rescue his friend Killian, a bard who had been taken captive by bandits. That rescue sent you into the Wailing Woods, where you found Killian, but also encountered several horrors, including the eyeless ones of the forest. And that encounter led to you losing an ally, killing several of their number, and recovering a strange black stone from them. You returned to Morton and found that the stone was somehow connected to a malevolent being known as Lessic. So you had it destroyed. Later that night, the eyeless attacked the village, setting fire to many structures and capturing several villagers. This attack led to one of the ladies of Morton charging you with returning to the Wailing Woods to put an end to Lessic and the eyeless. So you ventured deeper into even more treacherous parts of the forest, where you met and crossed a hag named Hazel Mossfoot, who ultimately aided you, but not without extracting a price first. Her aid ultimately led you to a crumbling tower under unfamiliar constellations, where you encountered a horrific creature, its alien form only vaguely resembling a person. Ultimately, you slew the monster, and this resulted in the eyeless surrounding the tower, chanting in an unknown language, and sacrificing people from the village in a ritual that summoned something evil and old and foul. With that, your party brought down the tower and tried to escape through the catacombs beneath it, only to find that they led to a lair of the eyeless where some of the villagers were being held. Your party attacked, and after an arduous battle, you were able to fell the eyeless warriors and escape with the villagers who had survived. You led them through the woods and returned to the village, where you met with the other lady of Morton, who thanked and rewarded you for your service. The lady also offered to take you on as retainers, but you declined and decided instead to accompany Wallace, a dwarven cleric and member of your party, to the city of Black Sands to help him visit retribution upon someone known as Ragnar. But before you traveled, you decided to spend the next few weeks weathering the remainder of winter and helping Morton recover and rebuild as much as you could in that span of time. When spring arrived, you set out west upon the misty highway toward Black Sands, and after a day, you passed through Dueler's Bridge, where you didn't witness much more than an argument between merchants vying for space in the market. With another day's travel, you arrived in Deepbury, but the only thing you managed to unearth was a plot involving one brewer attempting to steal another brewer's recipe. Without much to distract or detain you, your party made good pace on the highway, and you've passed your travels safely and largely without incident. Now the city of Black Sands lies before you, sprawling on the dark earth, and the sun sets behind it, sinking into the boiling waters of the maw. A breeze carries the scents of the sea and the city as it drifts past you. Salt air and baked bread in particular. Your mouth waters in anticipation of the taste and comfort of a warm meal as you pass by the farms and hovels that speckle the surrounding countryside. A smaller community of businesses and residences has been built outside the walls of the city. You note a tannery, a freight business, an inn and several smaller shops, cottages and cottage industries en route to the gates. You'd guess the walls of the city are more than 50 feet of weathered but sturdy stone. An iron portcullis bars entry to the city, and guards stand post atop the walls. Before we go any further, take a moment to introduce yourself. Tell us something about your character. And then tell me something that you noticed kind of on your way to the gates of the city as you were kind of passing sort of this outer community that you went through. So, Shondell, let's start with you.
Hot seat. All right. I'm Chandel. I play Junie, who is a half wood elf fighter. Um, she's still a brief tidbit about Judy is that she's got a lot of growing up to do. She's really trying her best to do that effectively. She's got a lot of maturing to do, and she feels like she's done a lot of that over the last little bit. Um, something. Sorry, what was the question again? I totally lost track.
All right. So you know that you were kind of traveling,
Yeah.
basically
Okay.
across the countryside, and then you noticed that there are these little communities built outside of the walls of the city, and you've passed
Yeah.
through one of them on your way to the gates of the city. So I kind of described some things you saw, like a tannery, freight business, and things like that. What's something your
Well,
character noticed on the way there?
it's not something that she really noticed, but as she started getting we started getting more into an urban populated area after being on the road for so long, she's really starting to reminisce and slightly forget how a bed feels, and she'd really love one, along with a house and a home cooked meal and a roof over her head and maybe a hot shower.
All right. Yeah. And I can imagine after traveling for a while, as she did, it's not so much winter anymore. Again, it's springtime now. So the weather is significantly
Yes.
nicer. But when she wakes up in the morning, having slept on the ground the night before, you know, she may
Yeah.
wake up covered in dew and wet and
Yeah,
shivering.
she's super happy that it's no longer winter and cold and freezing, that it is springtime, and she marvels at the colors and the smells of the blooming flowers and the blooming trees and whatnot. But yeah, after being on the road for so long, she's just I want a bed.
Okay.
All she wants is a bed.
All right. Before we go on, I just noticed that my friend Tino and Christy joined us tonight, so just wanted to say thank you to joining us in chat. We appreciate it. Eric, you're up next. Tell us about yourself, tell us about your character, and then something your character noticed going through the community towards the gates.
Hi, I'm Eric. I play Sir Cadron Lornau. Wow, I haven't used that voice in a while. Um, he's a half drow paladin. We're kind of seeing how he turns out from this point out. He's made some changes over the couple weeks that we've been traveling, and one of the most noticeable ones, at least for him personally, is that he has a horse now, which is really cool. Wink, wink, fine steed. Um, which is a fantastic spell. But he's just kind of. I think he's only just gotten used to riding a horse. He used to have to walk everywhere. So he's probably noticing more than anything how comfortable he is in the saddle and how strange it's going to be like being within a city for the next few days, weeks. He doesn't know. He's kind of got comfortable on the road.
Okay. Real quick before we go on, what? Tell me a little bit about your horse because we haven't really talked about it yet. So, what's your horse look like? Is there anything unique beyond it just
The
being
horse would probably look like a bog standard kind of brown warhorse, saddled, bridled, but the brown fur is like speckled with these white patches of fur, and they seem to kind of mirror his own freckles that start to look like stars. Um, and he just kind of looks at that as the spell being a little bit cheeky and picking the way the horse looks for him. He didn't actually pick it. He just sort of said, fine steed, and hoped it went well. Um, he's not used to magic
that,
yet, guys.
that
all right?
that's yeah.
And I
It's
didn't
totally
catch.
appropriate to
Does
choose a
the
horse.
horse have a name or?
No, but you will have occasionally heard him call it smartass because it's probably a very, very uh, annoying horse at times.
Okay. And Shondell, I think I was talking over you. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that that's exactly how you buy a horse or get a horse. Just Yeah, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
This is gonna be interesting.
I would say the horse acts like it likes everyone but him in the party. It tolerates him, it likes everyone else.
Okay. All right, Kristen.
This is gonna be very interesting.
You're up next, Kristen.
Hello, I'm Kristen. I'll be playing Toby, rock gnome warlock who is a little batty at times and likes to get into gadgets and gizmos and try to make something out of them. Little fascinated with time and doesn't want it to end for anybody. So that means saving people, not wanting them to die, not wanting himself to die. We uncovered maybe some possible secrets. Little of his background came out, and he didn't want it to. That's why he's kind of a secluded person, because he just doesn't want to open up to people, doesn't want them to know that anything's wrong or have them help. So that was super uncomfortable for him, just having those things discovered. Right now, as they're all traveling, he would see like what he thinks the first flower or spring is. It might be a weed, but he's not sure because they're traveling to a different part. And he picks it for Junie as like, isn't this pretty? And it's probably like a weed. So,
Kristen, can you describe it? Just give it a description.
Oh yeah, it's like those yellow weeds that like come out from the sidewalk, like the cracks in the sidewalk, but he just grabs like a whole bunch of them. So he thinks they're pretty.
Junie is very touched and accepts it graciously and praises your efforts.
Happy spring.
Yes, because I'm sure, Toby has on a couple of occasions in our last campaign, was trying to make attempts to connect with other people, albeit awkwardly at times or whatever, but, he very much remembers that Junie was looking forward to spring, so that was kind of a nice sentiment for him to engage in. Now, before we go on to Lewis, just one thing, I can't remember. I don't think we had a lot of follow-up from the last session, and I know that during the last session, you had kind of had to drop out. But I think I texted you, or I think I wrote a little bit in Discord about your robe. Did you get the information regarding that?
I might have. No, I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, and I don't think I said this,
awesome.
but with this amount of time that has passed, you would have had an opportunity to attune to it, and in attuning to it, it now fits you much more properly. It no longer, kind of like engulfs, Toby's, little body, So
He never took it off.
Yeah.
Never did.
Yeah. Well, now it fits properly. So
Toby looks like Merlin from The Sword in the Stone now.
Basically.
All right, Lewis, you are up next.
Yeah.
Did you catch me, Lewis? You're up next.
Alright, yeah, my name is Lewis. I'll be playing as Wallace, who's Hill Dwarf Cleric. I don't even know what a word spontaneous is a word I'd use to describe Wallace.
Absolutely mad.
Yeah, you can see him, he's like completely shaved his head now. He cut off he had these war braids, but he cut them off, and it's revealed on the back of his head. He's got this big tattoo of a moth that's coming round his head, which kind of goes into these patterns on the side of his head. And he's got this kind of apron with loads of flowers on it, and purple sort of vestments. Something he notices walking would just be like a bird of prey kind of flying over the sky. And yeah, he's over the time that they've been travelling, he's been very quiet by his standards, especially given what he knows he's kind of coming here to do. He's probably a bit quiet, stuckable.
Hey, Lewis, you there?
I think I cut out.
Yeah. What were you saying? What was the?
What did you last hear?
You were talking about how you were coming here to do something. I didn't hear what you said around that.
All right, yeah. He's been quite quiet, but it's like he knows what he's here to do, and over the course of the time they've been traveling, he's been very like reserved.
Okay.
He spent a lot of time with his pipes, kind of just talking to them.
Gotcha. Okay, and you mentioned a bird of prey. What kind of bird of prey?
I imagine it to be like a hawk or something, like just in the air. He sees kind of gliding sort of over the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he'll notice that
we're coming up, and
yeah, he'll notice that, and it's a little odd in comparison to what else he sees in the sky, because there are a lot of kind of like seagulls, and you kind of have that, you know, on the ocean sort of sound of just these, you know, random seagull noises and stuff like that, and the breeze, you know, coming off the ocean, and the swoosh of the waves on the shore and stuff like that. But he spots a single hawk, you know, flying above. Jess.
Yes, I'm Jess. I play Lothwyn, or Wyn for short. She's a high elf druid barbarian, and well, the last little while's been quite strange for her. She traveled to Mornton, not specifically that town, but she traveled to intending to go set up her own little herbalist shop and live closer to nature. And with this strange group she found herself with, discovered all sorts of monstrosities and aberrations in nature, which, yeah, that kind of fueled the rage in her, and the barbarian came out. And so now, after leaving Mornton and coming back, she's coming home, and she's not really quite sure what to think of that, because, well, she hasn't done what she set out to do. So in her parents' eyes, it's a failure. And since she's not following the path that they'd want her to follow in the first place, yeah, they probably won't be happy with her little tryst into nature. So she's not sure what to feel about coming home right now, but as she approaches Black Sands, she's seeing and smelling all these familiar things of home. And at the same time, it's comforting, yet she's uneasy.
Okay. So she's just kind of taking in all the sights that are, you know, or sights and sounds and smells that are very familiar to her, but she's a little uncomfortable with it, not wanting to return home so soon. All right.
Yeah.
So let's return to where you are now. You have trekked for the better part of a week, traveling through, you know, a few villages and across the country, probably seeing more of the land than most of your characters have seen before. Now, a couple of you did travel from this area towards Morton, and now you're coming back, you know, so you did see a lot of this recently. But, you know, I know Toby, we've talked about, has probably spent a lot of his time in Morton, you know, and Shondell was there for a little while. Wallace had traveled quite a bit, coming from an entirely different country across a mountain pass, you know, so he's seen a bit of the world. But again, like I said, your travels went well. Now you find yourselves where you wanted to be. Only as you've, you know, crossed the countryside surrounding the walled city, and then passed through this kind of community right outside of the walls of the city, you find yourself at the gates, with the gates very much closed right now. And as I mentioned, the sun was setting. It has grown quite dark, as you were, trekking across the countryside. So, you're at the closed gates of the city of Black Sands. What do you wish to do?
Toby's gonna knock on the gate. Hello.
All right. So Toby goes up to the gate. Now it is very, it's this wrought iron. You can tell it's heavy, sturdy. It has been here for a while. As you're approaching it, you can see, there's a considerable amount of rust that is built up in this kind of like salty sea air that it's been exposed to for however long it's been here. All right. So, and you knock on it, and I gotta imagine that when he does so, it probably, scuffs his fingers just a little bit, and he gets an abrasion on his knuckles as he's doing that, more than likely.
Well,
But,
hell. He kicks it.
How hard?
Little gnome hard. I can't imagine it would be a big kick.
All right. So he gives it a little bit of a kick. It's there's almost no give to it at all whatsoever. It doesn't quite damage or injure his foot, but he can tell that it's sturdy.
Do you want some help there, Toby? Want a hand?
Here, always. That would be nice.
Junie is also going to attempt to kick the gates.
At this point, I'm
We're just
generally
wailing on it.
My
sign of authority.
I don't want to knock and cut my hands.
my question again is how hard does Junie kick the gates?
With a bit of force. I mean, not extremely hard that she's going to injure herself. Knowing that they're probably not going to open or anything like that, but like enough to hopefully get like a rattle or something going.
Okay.
Moral
all right.
support.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well-
much.
Let's do it on the count of 3.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
All right, so Junie goes up and kicks it, and then Toby suggested Junie that you do it simultaneously, which you do it, and then about that point, Wallace, you're noticing a guard kind of leaning over, and it's he's dressed kind of. The colors are red and gray for the most part, and he's just kind of bent over the wall, and he's like, "Hey, cut it out!
Let me in and I will.
City's closed for the night. You'll have to stay in Leechfield."
Oh, please don't make us.
All right.
We seek shelter.
Please let us in. We're good people.
There's an inn down the road. Gates will open in the morning.
Whereabouts is this in? What's it called?
Leechfield.
Leechfield Inn. Alright, I thought Leechfield was like a... Look.
Well,
The area is Leechfield.
exactly. The area is Leechfield. I don't think anyone paid attention to the name of the inn. Wynn probably wouldn't know the name of the inn, but Wynn is very familiar with the fact that kind of the area surrounding the city, there are several small communities that are built up around the roads leading into the city, and just as an entirety, it's just referred to as Leechfield, or the Leechfields, or, what have you. So it's just kind of like one of the areas of the city. It just doesn't have the protection of being within the city gates. And when you also know that the city does, close at dark. No one enters, no one leaves.
All right, we may as well go find somewhere else. They don't open the gates.
I give like a stare to the guard, like I see you.
All right. You do that. He looks slightly puzzled and then slightly unnerved, for a bit.
Scared to let a little gnome in? Let's see how it is.
The gods here aren't exactly kind. There's a reason I travel so much. You tend to stick to what they're told, at least. Well, you're all looking for a bed. May as well go find a place to get in.
Yes. Let's find a bed, please. I would love a bed. Where's this inn? Direction.
All right, so you passed an inn, kind of like on your way back, probably
Okay.
probably half a mile.
Okay. All right. Junie's just gonna start walking.
Okay. All right. Well, you head back. Now, while it is dark, there is a good bit of activity, kind of going on in the streets here. You see that some of these little shops are closing up for the day. Some of the shopkeepers are, kind of like boarding things up, walking away from their businesses. There are people, traveling through the kind of dirt road that you're on with their carts and animals and things like that. So those kind of sounds fill the air. There's a bit of a marketplace that you pass, and most of the things have kind of shut down there. And then eventually you'll come upon the inn. And when you get to this inn, it's 2 stories, and it is a good bit weathered. You can tell that this is a building that's been here for quite a while, and you look at it compared to the buildings around it, and it looks like it has seen many more years than some of these other ones. Outside of it, there is a sign that has kind of like this WW pattern that kind of like crosses over. Looks like it's kind of in filigree, but it is worn. So it looks like it was kind of fancy, almost once upon a time, but the years have just kind of deteriorated it.
Would Kay by chance know the name of the inn? Because he's from Black Sands as well.
Yeah, well, Kay's from the Black Sands area. I mean, it's possible that he has stayed here. I'm not sure how much time he ever actually spent in the city, but it's possible that he came close enough that he knows this, and he probably knows it to be the Witch's Wick.
So, pint, bed.
Well, it's no place you're going to get one outside the city walls, so might as well.
Yeah, slept in worse places.
Isn't that the truth? Unfortunately, you'll find you've slept in more comfortable places as well.
All right.
Is it the ground? Or as long as we're not sleeping on the ground, I'm okay.
No,
I'm
they're
okay with it.
They're just decently old, as is the whole place.
Yeah,
it's been here longer than I've been alive.
It gives it character. I'm not worried. It's a character bed. Just
yeah, and Sir Kay probably knows, again, kind of having been sort of around this area before, just outside of the city proper. This is not like a squalid inn. It's comfortable, you might say. So it's it's not a crap. It's just old, really. It's seen better days. It was probably better than comfortable once upon a time, but it's a decent inn,
Its age simply just gives it character is all. I'm not worried.
See around this inn, is there anything interesting outside, around the inn?
It depends on what you're interested in. What would Wallace take interest in?
Don't know, something that I don't want to say out of the ordinary, because I don't know, like something that maybe looks like it shouldn't be there, or something that's like different to what he would think would be normal.
Oh, okay. In terms of that, I would assume that everything that's kind of out in this particular area that you're in right now, it looks like it should be here. I mean, he's looking at the businesses that are around here, and then he's looking at Black Sands. And Wallace probably doesn't know a whole lot about Black Sands, but he can tell. I mean, even coming from Ironhome, this is probably a larger city than Not probably. This is a larger city than Ironhome is. Ironhome is a city, but this is kind of like the largest city in the land beyond the mountains, and it is not only where Castle Black Sands is, and the king resides. It is a major kind of trade hub for the region. So a lot of trade goes on here. And just everything that's around here, relates to shipping or relates to industries that would be outside of the city proper, probably like the tannery. When you pass by that does not smell good at all, so they're just kind of industries like that out here. And then it looks like, in terms of like residences and stuff like that, it's probably a poorer community. We're not looking at, people living like completely in poverty and stuff like that, but these aren't like noble homes or anything like that as well, so.
Okay. I'm gonna look over to Ken when you happen this, and I think we get a lot of travellers through Black Sands. It seems to be a bit of a trading hub. Do you think a lot of people would pass through this inn?
Oh, definitely. Anyone going east would pass through here as, well, possibly their last chance to stay the night before the next town over. So.
Good to know.
I've stayed here once or twice. Can't remember, actually. It's been a long time. Yeah. I need to go find a stable. You're all welcome to head inside and grab food if you like.
I can 100% get behind some food.
All right.
I just, as I assume Judy is walking off, I just lean over to Wynn and just say, I'm starting to think Judy's not quite made for long distance traveling.
I don't think she's made for most of what we've been through.
That's a fair point. I mean...
Side note, Junie's really going to try to surprise you this round. Try being the key word.
I mean, she has surprised him before.
She's been through some stuff. She's just repressing a lot of it.
That's not a good sign.
No.
Well, it'll be good to get in and have a drink and sort of revise our plans and what we're going to do tomorrow. So, first round's on me. Come on.
You just look over and you see the horse's bit Kay on the ear, and he's trying to calm it down and get it into the stable before it causes him any more problems.
Okay. All right. So Kay goes to the stable, and you'll find one very near the inn. And if you'll pardon me, I'm trying to pull up a list of prices for anything y'all might desire as you're here. So give me a second. You can keep talking. You walk on into the bar, tavern. Inn. You walk into the tavern of the inn, and when you go in there, the first thing that kind of strikes you, for those of you who have entered, Kay, you're still dealing with your horse, is there's a strong smell of tobacco as you go in, and beyond that, it is quite a lively sort of bar. There are several patrons here. It looks like many people are traveling to Black Sands or from Black Sands, or perhaps they came in on a boat and wound up here for whatever reason outside of the city proper. As you're walking in, the interior of the Witch's Wick is about as weathered as the outside of it is as well, and the floorboards of the place are just kind of like old gray wood, and as you walk across them they creak and squeak and groan, and there are lots of kind of like bench seating in here and tables and stuff like that. It's a fairly sizable room. As I mentioned already, it's a 2-story building, and you'll notice that there's a set of stairs kind of going up just beyond the bar. You see some exits behind the bar, presumably leading to a kitchen or something like that. And as you look up, it's kind of like an open plan, and you see some rooms, doors leading to rooms above you. Within here, as I've mentioned, there are several patrons. Most of them look perhaps like they're sailors or merchants or travelers of one kind or another. There are a few others that kind of look a little different from the rest of the lot. You have within here there is a kind of a person in a corner on a stool, and he's got a lute and seems to be performing, though no one's really paying much attention to him at all whatsoever. He's got kind of he's skinnier sort of build, black goatee, salt and pepper hair, kind of bags under his eyes, and as you watch him and hear him, he appears to be, quite drunk as he's performing or attempting to perform songs. Could be why no one's paying attention to them, but as you're listening to him, they're kind of like these forlorn, sort of depressing songs, and he just kind of seems like a sad sack of a bard, So there's that person, in addition to, the rest of the lot that I've mentioned. You'll see another kind of small guy, scruffy, Weasley looking, sitting at a table surrounded by people, running some kind of gambling game. There's another, larger fella, full-on beard, braided hair down the back, animal furs, and he's just, kind of like mug after mug after mug on his table, and he's like, bam, like arm wrestling people and kind of loud and rowdy and stuff like that. In addition to them, you'll kind of like glance around and, having met other adventuring types and stuff like that as well, you'll see a guy just kind of in the corner, kind of nursing a glass of something, and he's, in black robes. Wallace in particular, you think they look more like priestly robes of some sort, though you can't quite make out, what's going on with them exactly. But as you kind of stare at him, drinking as well, he's looks older, middle-aged, but on the older end of that. Again, another person with kind of like salt and pepper hair. He's got kind of a short beard, but as you see, his skin, you can tell that it is. He apparently underwent some kind of trauma at some point. They're kind of like lesions that look like they've healed on his skin and stuff like that. So this is just sort of the things that you're seeing as you're kind of going around the bar. And when you come in, there will be a kind of heavier set, red-haired woman in sort of like common dress, and she's carrying a couple of tankards of ale, and she just kind of looks at the lot of you and go on, have a seat. I'm Mary. I'll help you in a moment.
Hey Wallace, why don't you go play with him? Seems like you're a jam.
Is that the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk up to him, and I'm gonna toss a gold coin at him, and I'm gonna be like, "Who hurt you, man?"
All right, and as you toss the gold coin, in, he takes notice of it and just kind of sort of like drunkenly nods, and the tune changes slightly, and he starts singing about Laverne, and so almost, you can tell it was in response to what you ask, and even though he's not playing as well as you've heard some other bards perform, he seamlessly goes into answering your question with a song, And,
okay. I'm gonna like grab the stop him from playing to like kind of take it off him. What does he do?
So you reached forward and grabbed his lute. Is that what you said?
Just like, yeah, I think I've like heard enough of this guy. Like,
you should at least buy him dinner first before you go grabbing his lute, man.
Oh no, I'm not hitting on him yet. Nah, I'm gonna like just be like kind of grab the guitar and just be like, shh, it's all right.
All right,
it's
so
okay, man.
All right, so you reach forward, you grab the lute, and just tell him it's all right, and he'll kind of like pull it back from you a bit. He's a little bit puzzled because you just tossed a gold coin in, which is pretty good coin for someone who wants him to stop playing.
I'm at the point where I kind of have enough. I just feel bad for this guy, and I'm just going to be like, mate, I don't know who Laverne is, but if she saw you now, I can tell you, I know, listen, I know how it works, and I've been there, heartbreak and whatnot. Get yourself together, man. It's going to be alright. Come on. Come sit with us and our friends.
All right. And he'll look down at his hat that he has on the ground there, and it's your gold coin and a few copper. Not much more than that. But he'll bend down and pick it up. Who are you?
A friend. Come on.
All right. Eyes you not with suspicion, but it's just kind of an unusual thing, And he gets up and he'll follow you over to. I assume everyone else is taking a table as this was going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd walk in at this moment just as I see Wallace walking over to our table with another bard, and I'd kind of appear sort of next to them, I guess, and I just look at Wallace and I just say, "Did you just adopt another bard?"
No. This isn't. I'm not overkilling, right? Or whatever. This guy, we need to. Right, I'm over it. This guy is clearly upset, and what's your name again, by the way? I'm gonna kind of pat him gently on the back.
So you do that, and when you do it, it almost kind of knocks him off kilter off the seat, but he doesn't quite fall or anything like that. But you can tell he is deep, into his cups as he's been, performing. I'm Soren. Soren.
Ah, okay. Well, Soren, my name's Wallace. These are my friends. Now, you perform here a lot.
No, I'm just passing through for the night. It's going to Black Sands, but the gates are closed.
Yeah.
And the barkeep told me I could play.
Yeah.
What was that?
Your drunken bard is so good. I'm sorry.
Did anyone else tell you could play though? Because, and I'm not a musician myself, but I have met some bards in my time. It's okay to not be okay, mate. And take it from me. I know, but I think, we're all trying to have a good time, try to have a good night, and you're playing sad songs, and that makes me sad, and I don't like being sad. So, how about you stick to the water and leave the loot out of it, and you can sit here, sober up, and then you can tell us a bit more about Laverne or whatever her name was when you're feeling a wee bit better. How does that sound?
And when you say that, it just hurts so here, so bad.
Okay.
And when
I don't have a doll with this point where it hurts so bad, but I can. I know, Soren. I know. I'm gonna put my hand on his chest, kind of when he's pointing to it, and press his hand against his own chest and be like, I know, but enough of the look, please. Do you want a drink? Can I get you anything? Milk, water? What are you after?
I mean, tea would be nice.
Okay. I'll get you a tea. Okay? Okay, I'm going to put my hand on the side of his face and be like, it's okay. You're okay. I'm going to kind of ruffle his wee hat and be like, it's okay. And I'm going to look to the rest of him and be like, I'm just going to be like, kind of like that, and be like, help.
I thought you were gonna play your bone pipes.
I'm just.
I was going for.
I can play the one song. I don't know, man.
I'm just sitting there, looking at Wallace, laughing as I'm mopping up a small bit of blood. And I'm just gonna say, well. Seems to be a trend. I can't walk into a tavern without bleeding. Wallace nicks me. I'm just wrapping my hands.
Are going to be bleeding. if I hear any more of this guitar solo, God.
Soren,
Uh,
can you play Wonderwall?
it's the real question.
You wanted a different song.
Okay, no.
Oh,
So, as you ask him, if he can play this other song, everybody always asks for that one everywhere I go. Yeah, I can play it. And he grabs the lute from near his feet, and he picks it up. And I rolled a natural 20. So it is the most stellar performance
So proud.
that you've ever heard from a bard that's almost pass out drunk, So, and
What does everyone else in the bar react like? Because I'm assuming he's been playing, these kind of sad, depressing songs, and he just can come out with this unbelievable.
yeah. So the tables that are kind of surrounding you, at first you notice that they take notice of this performance, and then just kind of gradually a hush sort of falls over the bar as he's performing this kind of, not Oasis Wonderwall, but we'll call it another similarly titled ballad. And then just this hush falls over the bar as he performs the song, and everybody's just kind of wrapped in attention to it. And then just as he finishes, the bar just kind of erupts in applause, and then he just kind of looks very nonplussed and turns back to you. Yeah, I can play the song. And then he puts the lute down and just kind of sits his head on the bar in front of him.
Soren, I've never heard that song played so beautifully in my entire life. How would you like to see a bit of the world and make some coin? You could come with us and play that song, and we could take a share of what you make from that.
Wallace, before you say that, we have no idea how long we'll be spending in Black Sands. He wouldn't exactly get his worth traveling with us. He needs to be with a group that can,
yes.
shall we display his talents properly. I don't think we're that.
Not only that, we don't really know what we're doing or who he is.
Can we keep him?
Wallace, he's not a pet.
He is also not Sweetroll or Killian.
Yes, can you please stop making decisions without the rest of us?
I mean, he asked us this time.
It kind of looks. Soren looks over towards Wallace and he's like, "Hey, it's all right, buddy. Laverne didn't want me. Nobody else does in you either."
I'm looking very kind of Soren, didn't he? Disney man,
I'm gonna take Soren on either side of his face. I'm gonna slap him really hard with my left hand, while at the same time dropping 5 points of lay on hands into him to cure his drunken state.
All right.
I will burn 5 points to sober him.
Okay.
What did you do? You ruined him. He was perfect.
I have a point.
All right. So
Oh, God.
you slap him hard across the face. You dump your 5 points in order to cure him of this condition of poison.
Can
alcohol.
Junie just say? Can Junie just say for once it's not me slapping?
Yeah.
What is going
If once it's
on?
me being slapped.
At this point, Kay, you look at Kay and he has this really stern, almost angry look on his face. And it's probably the first time you guys have seen him genuinely, pissed off at someone. Just grab him by each side of his face again. Make sure his eyes adjust and he's actually looking at me. Let him go, and I'm just going to say, "Alright, listen. If Laverne didn't want you, that's not on you. You're a talented young man. And you deserve every good thing that comes your way, so don't even start talking like that, please.
Exactly.
You deserve the
Sorry.
best down rendition of Wonderwall I've ever heard. And you
Never
earned
doubt your worth.
an entire tavern.
I love you.
We just met this person.
I'm just gonna look at him and just say, Soren, look at it this way. Without Laverne, you're free to become the best musician, probably this or any side of Black Sands.
A rock star. Think
Alright.
about it.
Do me a favor and give me a persuasion roll with advantage.
With advantage because he's sober now.
Nah, it was a good pep talk, mate.
Thank you. Persuasion. I could be really mean and channel divinity this, but I won't. Roll a natural 20.
All right.
First roll back.
So, as you slap him hard across the face, heal him of his condition of being drunken, his eyes go from being kind of like glazed and just sort of, lachrymose. They're filled with tears, to his bearing almost completely changes, and you can tell, it's just boom, sobriety is what happened. You've seen this before, as you've done this before. And then you give him this, speech, about becoming, the greatest bard, and, how Laverne has legitimately done him a favor. And he kind of grins and, "Who are you, friend? What? I feel so bad."
I just kind of chuckle and I'm like, call me Kate. I've been there.
Alright, I'm Soren.
You deserve someone who would actually support you in everything you do.
You're right. Laverne, she's a good girl, but I should be happy for her now.
Wasted moment.
She's trash, mate. You can do better.
No, she's a good girl, but
Okay. Oh my god.
but you're right. There's no good wallowing away my talent in taverns like this. If I'm gonna perform, I should do it right every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll find someone else. Thank you. Thank you.
Junie's just gonna lean over and Toby and be like, is it me, or did this just get really awkward?
I don't know what's happening right now.
I feel great. I think this has been a beautiful conversation, Soren.
The last thing I'm going to say to Soren is, fantastic. Just make sure it's not Wallace.
Yes.
Honestly, Toby, I'm not sure I know what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Where
Just
are
didn't work out
we?
between us.
I'm just going to look over at
Oh,
Judy,
God.
Toby, and Wade and be like, have any of you ever been through a bad breakup?
This is
No.
this is next level. Oh. This is, you're consoling a complete stranger, and it's kind of getting a little intimate.
And
Well,
as you're kind of saying that, you guys are having this you all are having this conversation, and Sir Kay is saying, please don't let it be Wallace, and Wallace is I'm sorry it wouldn't work out, mate, and he kind of like looks back, and Wallace, you can tell he's sober now, completely different bearing, demeanor and all, and he's like, I'm sorry, have we met? I'm Soren.
have I got a drink at this point?
Have you got a drink?
Yes.
Yeah, we could say that you probably you
I'm
probably
gonna
got a.
swell him, because that is rude. I helped that guy actually get his life. I'm gonna swell him.
All right.
Oh gosh!
Oh,
Wow.
All right.
He doesn't even remember me.
Wallace.
He's
Yeah, like you've been really drunk, Wallace. Like that's mean. I don't
Right.
know what's
Yeah,
happening
but
right
like, I remember. I don't know. You know what, Soren? I thought I thought things were different with me. I thought that we were pals. You know, I thought, well, obviously I was wrong, and that's fine. Good luck. Keep your gold piece.
He
and
looks.
I'm just gonna like, and can like go up to the bar like get another drink for myself.
Now everyone else, looks around, at Soren, and you can tell that he appears, quite a bit confused, and he's just kind of like, takes the ale and just kind of like slings it off his face, and he's like, "All right about that. That's at least the 4th time that's happened this week. But what did I do?"
Honestly, I have no idea. This got weird even for me.
Yeah. Just it's best not to think about it, to be 100% honest with you. And just move on. I got nothing. I'm sorry.
Why don't you play that lovely tune for us again, if you don't mind?
Great idea, Toby.
He fall in love with him again.
He looks at his lute, down at his feet, and he kind of like picks it up, and you can tell that he's like looking at it for like signs of damage. You get the sense that he probably never would have dropped it at his feet had he not been inebriated. And as you're kind of like looking at it, you can tell that it's a pretty fine instrument that he's holding there. And he's what tune do you want to hear?
You played a very lovely version of Wonderwall. We would all love to hear it again. Because this is just a little too awkward.
You see him,
only play drunk.
You see him glance around at, kind of like the tankards on the table or whatever, and he's like, and then he picks up the tea that Wallace had brought him earlier, and he's like, I think I'll stick to this, and Wonderwall, yes, I know that one very well. So, if you will, I've got perhaps a little more coin to earn tonight. I'm kind of falling behind here. Eric, he'll look back at you and just, thank you, and please tell your friend I'm sorry.
It's fine. He doesn't deserve it.
All right.
Go, have a good night.
And with that, he'll just kind of like, bow towards the table, and then he'll walk back over to the he'll walk back over to the stool that he was sitting on in the corner, and then, this time he commands a good bit more presence, as he's, getting ready to perform. And the entire bar doesn't go, the entire tavern doesn't go quite as quiet as it did, previously, but there are more people paying attention to him now than did earlier. And, he announces, and now I'll play Wonderwall for my new friends at the table over there. Thank you. All right. And he begins playing it, and, he can't quite top the performance that he did earlier, but it is a passing good rendition of the song once more. So, now, to turn back to the table. Wallace, you returned with another drink or so, because you just...
I said let's get a round for everyone, so I'll come back with a round.
Oh, you come back with a round. All right. So, just make note of this. Let's see. Why don't you just subtract 2 silver pieces, and we'll say, you got kind of like a big, gallon of ale to bring to the table with some tankards and what have you.
Perfect.
They don't pour tankards. They pour pitchers.
Yeah.
Gallon.
So, and just to let you know, as you went over to the bar, Wallace, now you've seen this woman who introduced herself as Mary, walking around. She hadn't quite made it to your table yet, but as you went to the bar, there's a very large man behind the bar, balding on top, but has kind of like some sideburns that come down, and you see that his arms, kind of in the lower forearm area, have some tattoos on it. It looks like it has some kind of like military significance to you as you're seeing them, but he's just kind of a larger guy wearing an apron and what have.
What an apron.
This one does not have flowers on it. It's just a standard, standard apron. Anyway, but he's, behind the bar, and he's, as you speak with him and order your drinks, you can tell he's kind of all about the business, fairly gruff, didn't chat very much with you as you were there, seems largely annoyed, at...
Did I even try to speak to him?
Yeah, pretty much. Even though you're, a patron and giving him your business or whatever, he's not a pleasant man as you're speaking with him.
Probably just jealous of my apron. I'm gonna turn around and walk back over to the table with all my... Yeah, I've not took it off. So I'll come back with drinks and I'll just be like, well, that was weird. But anyway, so what's the game plan for tomorrow then?
Well, should we try to get some rooms for tonight?
Shouldn't be an issue.
Yes.
Yeah, lock those down.
Grab some rooms for the evening, head into the city tomorrow, and say find one of the most popular inns in town and see if we can start asking about Ragnar and his friends.
I didn't really get much information from the person that I spoke to. I was actually... your parents, you say that they're from here, yeah?
Yeah.
What is exactly that, if you don't mind me asking, of course, like they do in the community essentially? What are their jobs?
They're academic wizards.
Okay. So they study the arcane.
Yeah.
Do you know what particular interests they have, perhaps?
Honestly, I wasn't really interested in that despite them trying to get me there. But they're... What I remember of what they study, it's mostly conjuration.
No, okay. Good to know. And Kay, you have any family here?
No, I'm bit lacking on the family end of things, unfortunately. I am a bit familiar with the area and slightly familiar with the city. I've been through a few times. Grew up around here, but my family passed away when I was a bit young.
I'm sorry to hear that. Toby, you like things, don't you? Like,
I like a lot of things.
yeah. Have you ever... I'm trying to think. You're a clever guy, Toby. Yeah. How brushed up are you in your dwarven history? Or Ginny, for that matter? That's an open question.
Pretty brushed up. What are you looking for?
You ever heard of something called the rune hammer? I mentioned it before.
I'm gonna say I probably have to roll for it, but I, knowing it has maybe something to do with runes, I would think that Toby would have some knowledge with that.
Okay. All right. So let's see. You can give me an either Arcana roll or a History roll, whichever works out to your benefit. I guess it should be about the same, but probably, unless you're proficient in one of them and not the other.
Ooh, 25.
Okay, 25. So Toby has, heard a little bit about the rune hammer before, and just basically he knows that, it is rumored to be an ancient dwarven artifact, that has something to do, with early times in dwarven lore and how, mountains were forged with it, and, he's able to regale Wallace with some information without knowing like particular properties or owners or current locations or anything like that, but the essential thing that he knows is that it's just rumored to be a powerful dwarven magical item. And I'm sure that, Wallace, being that you're interested in this and being that you're a dwarf and you have, kind of like these legends surrounded about it, he'll tell you a lot that you already know, but probably, sprinkle in, a couple of tidbits, about it that you were unfamiliar with,
Mm-hmm.
So, but nothing to lead you to like a current location or anything like that. He is able to tell you that it was lost during a certain time period, and its last the last person who possessed it was a dwarven queen, who had wielded it in a battle against an orcish army, and it went missing after that upon her death, so. Presumably taken by the orcs,
Okay.
It seems like you already know a lot about this. Why? Was there something in particular?
Yes. See, I've heard these legends as of you, but I want to find it before he does.
Before who does?
Before Ragnar does. You see, there was a time when we, the three of us, were, I would call him brother, we were part of the same order. And he would always talk of this, talk of rumours he had heard, talk of the things that we would do with it if we found it. It was kind of a thing that was joked about when we were younger. But that obsession made him grow a bit dark and things happened. And after I spoke to this person in Mornington, I know that's what he's looking for. I just wanted to utilise your interests to maybe see if we could figure something out. This is a big city. It's the biggest city that I've ever seen. It's bigger than back home for me. It's going to be difficult to find one person. It seems that people come to and from this place all the time.
Well, sometimes you only need to find one person that works at a library or has a lot of books that can help out with this.
Library? I'll go to a library with you. I'll help you in the library.
Would there be a library in Black Sands?
I'd assume so. It's a pretty big city.
Almost everyone would assume so. Wynn knows for sure, that, especially with her.
I'm just gonna look at Wynn like, you have an answer. Tell me if there's a library here.
Well, yeah, they had, with your hearing about your parents, I mean, they had to like study somewhere or like have that access to books, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of the higher, more respected members that study the arcane have their own private libraries, but there is one library that is kind of more public than those private ones in this.
That's a good suggestion. It could be a place to start.
And just to chime in with that as well, Wynn would know for sure. She didn't, necessarily come from, extreme wealth or anything like that. But, her parents are, upper middle class, and, they've studied the arcane arts and attended, universities. And, she knows in the northern part of the city that, in addition to things like, Castle Black Sands and temples and other kind of like governmental buildings and stuff like that, there are universities and libraries and things like that, So, and she remembers, as she was mentioning, being taken to one by her parents, as they were trying to encourage her to, research and study and, try to learn the arcane as well. So, without a doubt, she knows there are libraries, and she knows specifically, as you've already mentioned, one that you could go to. So, within the city.
I think that's a good suggestion, and it's somewhere where I think would be a good starting point. Are you wanting to see your parents when we're back here? When I'd very much like to have a conversation with them.
I was hoping not to see them.
It's okay if you're on bad terms or whatever, or we don't need to. It just
You might want to just inform them that you're alive. You've been through some harrowing experiences. It might be worth
I was thinking more of that as well, not
not to push, of course. It's just you did almost die multiple times.
True. Yeah. I suppose that is true.
And this is the thing, I told you this when I asked for your help. I don't know where we'll go after this, or if we'll even come back. This could be the last time you see them, and I wouldn't want you, that would weigh on me heavily if you ever lived with such a regret.
Why did you have to get all depressing? We were enjoying a nice beverage and just having a decent night. You had to go down that road. Why?
I need to do to you what I just did to so.
No, I'm fine. I just thought maybe Wayne would care about that, but I guess not.
About that moment as you're talking, the kind of like heavy-set red-haired lady will, kind of come around, and she's like, "That's a lot of empty mugs there. Could I get you anything?"
I could eat.
Some food and rooms for the evening, if you could. If there are enough.
Oh yes. Would you each like a separate room? You're sharing rooms?
Yeah.
I could probably shack up with somebody. Like he could probably fit on the edge of a bed.
And
like a little puppy.
As you say that, she looks at you and she winks and she's like, "I'm sure you could."
No, he wouldn't do. He wouldn't understand what she was doing.
Everyone else at the table picks up.
Insight check the barmaid to see if she's flirting with Toby.
Is there something in your eye? I think might be some debris.
Just a wee little something.
Junie's just gonna be like, "It's
Wee
a
little something."
It's okay. It's all good, Toby. It's okay." And look back over and be like, "He'll bunk with me." She kind of puts a little extra emphasis on bunk.
All right. Well, Brent.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's all right, Toby. It's okay.
Caitlin's just in the corner, like he has his mug up to his face, but he's not drinking. He's very clearly using it to hide, like, laughter.
All right. Okay, and as you guys are kind of like, settling things, she's just kind of like, "Well, if it's a room you want to see Bram, it'll be 5 silver pieces for a room. If you'd like food, you can talk to me. We have large assortment of things. Could bring you some stew, I could bring you some bread, some cheese, some meats."
All of the above, please.
Yeah, all of this sounds great. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll do that for you, loves.
Hey, you might want to get that eye checked out.
What was that, Kristen? I missed it.
I said she might want to get that eye checked out.
She'll just kind of smile as she walks away and nods. All right. So she'll step away, for a bit. You see her attend to a few other tables as well. And then not before long, she'll bring out, like a pretty decent spread. Now, however y'all want to sort this out, essentially it would be about 3 gold, for the entire spread that she brings out, and she'll bring out more drinks as well, so
I'd pay a gold of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll toss in a gold.
Sure, I'll put one in.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so with that, how about we go ahead and take our break? I've got someone calling my attention, so we'll go ahead and take about a 5 or so minute break, and then we'll pick up from here.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. So we're back from our break. I apologize. My daughter forgot I was streaming tonight, so she wanted to see what I was doing in my office. So anyway, but we're back from break. And before we left for break, you all had just kind of been around the table and you were talking about getting rooms, and Mary had brought out food for you all. I think you had talked about how you were going to divvy up the check essentially, and then just between the lot of you, the cost of the rooms would be another 3 gold or so. So if you guys will just make note of that. Mary would have told you that, or I think she did tell you that you would need to pay Bram and establish that you were going to stay here for the night. And then she motioned over to a man behind the bar. Presumably the barkeep, that most of you had not paid attention to, but Wallace had kind of interacted with him a bit earlier. So we're going to pick up with that now. As we pick up, largely tonight is driven by y'all, and we kind of talked about that off stream earlier. But Wallace has done a good bit of talking and kind of like, sort of trying to arrange some things to position him into knowing a little bit more information. But I just kind of like, as we're coming back into play here, kind of like to go character by character and sort of see where you are with your characters, or where your characters are, and kind of where they're thinking they want to head. What are some things that they're interested in? Is there anything about Black Sins that they're looking forward to kind of like pursue their own goals or whatever? And now if your ends are kind of secretive or something like that, obviously you don't have to divulge that. But just give me a little bit of idea of where your character is and where they want to go from this point. So we'll kind of do the same order as earlier, and we'll start with you, Shondell. So what is it that Junie wants from this point forward? She's met this group of adventurers. Her life has kind of been upended a little bit. She has seen unspeakable things and experienced horrors that she never thought she would, and she's come through it. She's survived them all thus far. Where is she? What's going on with Junie?
Aside from looking forward to growing and maturing, I guess, right now, as I've said previously, she's really looking forward to bed and hopefully a hot shower. But now learning that there's this really big library, because Junie's a nerd, she's really looking forward to going to the library and doing more investigating and learning and teaching, if possible.
Okay, all right. So knowing there's this opportunity for research, and having heard Wynn discuss universities and stuff like that, this has obviously piqued her interest.
It's been a really long time since she stepped in a library or anything to that nature. So she misses the smell of opening an old book. So
okay,
that's what she wants.
All right, excellent. What about Sir Kay, Eric?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, because you guys are kind of robot on man.
Yeah,
I'm getting that too.
Yeah.
It's definitely Discord. It's definitely Discord.
Yeah.
My connection's like super low.
Yeah, so is mine. I think it's the server.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I can tell on my end, a couple of people are frozen. So how about we kick it back over to break for just a second, and hopefully, yeah. Okay. Wallace is back.
Okay.
Let's see what
My
happens
connection-
after Wallace comes back then. So.
Yeah, my connection just came back.
Oh, good then.
It's definitely Discord because my internet is.
Mine's still down.
Or-
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone. It looks
okay,
like everyone
back.
else is okay now, though. So
Oh, now it's back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
mine
Guessing you're back.
okay. All right.
So apparently
The
Discord
struggle.
just decided to...
I was like,
Oh, yeah.
nah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had started asking Eric, tell us about Sir Where is he right now? What's going on with him?
Before heading off to what would probably just be sleeping in the inn, the first thing he's gonna do is kind of drink for a little, and then between songs, he's going to excuse himself to go check on the horse. And as he's passing by Soren, since he knows Soren's between songs, he's just gonna kind of give him a pat on the shoulder and shake his hand, give him a nod, and palm him a platinum piece.
Okay. All right. He would certainly smile about that and, raise his cup of tea at you. Thank you so much for all you've done this evening. All right.
And I'm kind of just out the door. Like, I've been, ever since the whole Soren thing went down, I've been a bit quiet and just kind of pensive. And I'm going to rush down the horse, take care of it. And the whole time that's happening, I'm kind of dreading going back into Black Sands, because it's been a while since I was here last time, and it's not the best memories. So kind of dreading that, and then probably just thinking of Nissa. The whole thing with Soren has kind of got him remembering the past in a weird mix of like really fond memories, but not necessarily good ones. But they're memories he still holds on to for a weird reason.
Okay.
It's one of those deals where he almost wishes he could move on to Waysar.
That sounds really dark, not gonna lie.
Well, like you said to you, haven't you had a bad breakup?
Yeah.
All right.
That's just sticks, man.
Jimmy has no comment.
All right, Kristen, what about Toby?
He's looking forward to going to the library. He has plans and things, and likes things. He's not gonna share. So, I think he's interested in this hammer as well, but like, maybe exploring it more with Wallace in a sense that like, someone else is obsessed with it, and then like he's starting to ask about it, and so he's like a little concerned right now as well.
Okay. All right. Now, Lewis, we have heard a lot from Wallace tonight, but just kind of tell me, how does Wallace see this playing out? What does Wallace think's going to happen? What's going on with
To be
him?
honest, Wallace is kind of like, he's always been kind of worked on his own. He's never been a person that's worked well in a group. And he's kind of like just now trying not to, he's trying to, he feels like he feels bad if people are just like doing things because he's asking them to. He's trying to get everyone to kind of get on board with him. It's not working, he feels like. So he's trying, that's why he's asking Wynn about her parents, that's why he's asking Kay about his family, that's why he's asking them all about their interests to try and find, because he knows people and he's very good with people, and he knows that if he can get them to latch onto something, he'll get what he wants, which is kind of weird in a way, but like, it's like that.
Okay. All right. And then Jess, what about when now Wallace had brought up her parents, and she had, kind of said that she really, wasn't looking forward to seeing them so much, at least not after such a short amount of time has passed. Now, a short amount of time has passed, but a lot has happened to Wynn in the meantime. So tell me where she is, having returned to Black Sands without really finding her place in nature, and what might she be looking to get out of, either this trip with Wallace or this return to Black Sands? Where is she, and what are her plans now?
Well, she plans still to help Wallace, and unfortunately that's now seeming like it might have to involve seeing her parents before she's accomplished anything. And yeah, so she's definitely not looking forward to that, but she does agree with Wallace and Sir Kay that, yeah, it after what they've been through and almost dying a few times, it probably would be a good thing to let her parents know that she is still alive. But that at the same time, she thinks that might just make her parents try harder to get her to stay home and study the arcane arts because they think it's safer. So she's mentally doing this back and forth. It's a good thing to go see her parents. Even though she doesn't think so, they might have some information that could help, but in their mind, she doesn't think they'll think she's done anything worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I kind of imagine is that, as you all are, sitting here within the Witch's Wick, you're having your cups or you've stepped away to kind of like get a little bit of time to yourself in, terms of Sir Kay. You've probably indulged in, maybe a cup or two more than you normally would because you've been on the road and, this is more of a comforting kind of thing. And I would imagine that your characters are all just kind of around, even though you're together or within close proximity to one another, you're probably just sort of having these thoughts that we just kind of went through right now, and kind of like thinking about these things as you're drinking and eating and, being in here within the comfort of the tavern. And, the comfort of, these last, several weeks of just things not being completely crazy and dangerous and horrific as the, preceding days before that had been. So you've had, I guess, essentially much more, chill time and time to think about things, because things went really fast and quickly and horrifically for you there for a little while. So as you're within the tavern, Mary's brought out your food and you've arranged, for rooms for the night. And you're just kind of in here and, some people come, some people go. And, I'm assuming a lot of you, being that it's earlier in the evening, have just kind of like, stayed down in the tavern, just sort of taking it in, now that Soren has, now that Sir Kay has sobered Soren up. The performance is not quite as dour and depressing as it was, and he plays, more of a standard fare for, a livelier evening in the taverns. And, the clientele, as much as I mentioned earlier, there's still the people in there that I had pointed out that are a little different from everyone else, the person, doing kind of like feats of strength, and being a little rowdy, and also the person, just kind of like over in another area of the bar, just kind of like running some kind of like gambling scheme over there, and then, the other guy just kind of like nursing a drink, the one who had sort of the skin that was a little pallid and, pockmarked and blemished and, things like that. And then there are the lot of you, in comparison to almost everyone else in here, again, are, quite different. Most of these people are merchants and you're wearing armor, carrying weapons, things like that. You definitely stand out. So, what would your characters be doing for the remainder of the evening before retiring?
I missed the last part, or the...
Yeah, you
Do
can.
it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I said, what would your characters want to do for the remainder of the evening before retiring?
Toby probably asked Junie to dance if the music is more lively. He's probably like on your feet, like a little kid that can.
Double O Toby.
Yeah. That's how he's able to dance and try to like have a good time for a little bit. He's not gonna drink that much because like one drink and he's good. And then probably notice that Junie's like obviously really tired. Want to like call it an evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about
Junie
everyone?
Totally agreed to
So-
dance.
Yeah, so Toby and Junie will kind of like, like I said, Soren is performing more livelier tunes now. So, they'll have this, kind of little moment where they're, kind of celebrating and enjoying not fighting for their lives, enjoying not, sleeping on the
dance
ground.
floor.
Exactly, yeah. So, and I'm assuming it goes about as well as you might imagine, and as endearing as you might imagine. So, what about everyone else? When anything in particular?
Lynn is probably having a couple drinks more than she normally does, sitting there quietly before she heads up to bed.
Okay. All right, it's okay. Now you've already mentioned that you're kind of like away from everyone else. Is there anything that he would have wanted to do this evening in particular?
After kind of taking his moment away with the horse, he'd come back a bit more composed and a bit more himself, I guess. And he'd kind of just sit down and ask Wallace, do you have any idea why Ragnar wants the Rune Hammer? You mentioned when you were kids you used to talk about what you would do with it. You have any idea of his plans?
Yeah, I mean, the legends say that this hammer forged mountains. He wanted to wield that kind of power. We had a library our monastery, and there were sections where we would learn about our order and sort of mandatory reading, and there was a restricted section of the library, so to speak, and he would often go in there when he wasn't supposed, and he would bring this book, and it was kind of just dwarven legends and whatnot, and he would talk to me about this, and me, Fitzerk, had told him that this was a bad idea, he shouldn't do it, but he just, I don't know, he seemed to resent him. We were very alike in our ideas. It plagued his mind. He started speaking of blasphemous things, killing the Grand Master, doing unspeakable, horrible things to get this. I feel like whatever it is he intends to do with it is not good. I don't think it'll be very sunshine and rainbows if Ragnar gets what he wants. And vengeance aside, I don't think knowing a man of his motivations and his capability, I don't think I'd want that.
I can understand that.
Have you ever at a point in your life just thought you knew someone, but it just turned out to be different?
Kay goes stone-faced and does not answer that question.
Because that's how I feel with him, You think you know someone.
I know bits and pieces of that, but I can't say I know the full thing that you're bearing right now. Hopefully we'll find something in Black Sands that can help you.
I hope so as well. I've never really understood it properly. How can you sort something out when you don't even know what it is you're trying to sort out? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and be damned if I know. I'm just figuring it as well. Fun with that.
No. He'll sort of tossed and kind of he's holding his bone pipes at this point, and he's kind of like putting them in his teeth, like biting them. Like it's weird. Like he started doing it over the past couple of days, where he started just like putting them in his mouth, like kind of, and like bearing in mind it's like human remains, but yeah, it's weird.
All right, and as he's doing that, Wallace will feel a hand on his shoulder when he glances over at it, and it's a gloved hand, black leather, looks fairly oily. And as he kind of turns around to see that, almost immediately he smells this sort of like camphorous menthol mixed with like lavender kind of scent. It's a very odd, kind of not unpleasant, but strong and potent. And just kind of like on the heels of him questioning how can one find out just posing this question to Sir Kay, feels this hand on his shoulder and looks up, and you see the man with kind of like the pockmarked face, salt and pepper beard and hair, and looking down at him as he's looking up at him. And you could ask someone who knows about these things.
Hey. Do you want to sit like who?
You ask him who?
I don't know. He's a bit like kind of like he got a bit of a fright, to be honest, because he didn't really think that anyone else was listening. And he says who to the scary guy.
All right.
I think what my friend means to say here is, who might you be exactly?
I'm Harwin.
Harwin, are you okay? Do you need like a mint or something? Like, yeah. I gave my friend some tea. It's really nice, actually. They have some herbal stuff, I'm sure. What's her name?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
And as you say that and ask that, he, in answer to your "Are you okay?" he kind of like pulls down his vestments, to expose like these ligature marks around his neck, his throat, and he's like, "I'm alive."
Yes. Oh, okay. Who are you talking about? Who could I ask about this?
All right, and so you're asking who he could ask about this, and
yeah,
he will kind of like produce kind of like this symbol of a tome, and as he grasps it and clutches it, you could ask someone who follows the Archivist. And what the Archivist to be is one of the number of the Pantheon, more of kind of like a god of knowledge and of secrets and of things like that. So this is the person that I mentioned to you earlier who appeared to be kind of like in priest vestments and what have you, and now he's kind of like produced this symbol. So essentially, metaing this, this is a knowledge cleric that you're talking to right now. So
okay. Harwin, right? You happen to be, following him, or like, is it a bit? How did that happen? This is, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Do you know where I could maybe go? Is there somewhere around here I could maybe ask? Could you maybe tell me over a herbal tea? I don't know.
He smiles. I'm sure I could point you in the right direction. And he looks around at the rest of the table. Would you mind if I join you?
Not at all. Please sit. I'm just gonna do that thing again where I'm like,
I'm just gonna slide a drink over Wallace, and it was like very Kay's drink that is already half gone, but he just like slides his own drink and then kind of leans forward and looks at Harlan and just says, "So, I gather you've been picking up on bits and pieces of our talk. You wouldn't by chance know anything about this Runhammer, would you?"
And as you're asking this, he, looks at you and he's like, "I don't mean to pry, but I do make it my business to learn things as I can. And yes, I might know a little something of the rune hammer. And I would be happy to share it with you.
I'm trying to think of like Toby trying to whisper, but like I'm trying to do it in the voice. I can't put it out of my. Can't make it happen.
Toby just can't whisper.
I can't.
Oh, that's too funny.
I'm trying to do it. I can't do it.
Just like stage whisper it. Say you're whispering, but don't.
Now she's overthinking it.
I know. I guess he'll just talk loud. He's like whispering, but yeah. I can't do it. Oh my gosh.
Come on, I've attempted Toby's on several times. You have to attempt this.
Yeah, you did a good job last time, especially with the rolls. That was very me. It's nice meeting other knowledgeable persons. Where do you come from?
Oh, I'm from here. I've lived here all my life. But I have traveled near and far. I've learned many things. And if it's the rune hammer you seek, I could perhaps help. I do need help myself, though.
Oh, see, Wallace, you ask and you shall receive.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
you ask and you shall receive.
There you go. You got it out.
We got there.
There you go.
Yes, well, it's not so much the hammer itself, but the person looking for it. You say you need help. What with?
For the likes of you, it should be nothing, I'm sure. But there is this fungus that grows only certain times of the year. And I tried.
None of us are that kind of medic, unfortunately. Maybe that's else we'd have?
Toby's gonna look in his robe. See if anything like started sprouting.
Alright. As he looks at it, you've noticed that since you've worn this, I'm not sure about Toby's hygiene. You could, tell me or whatever. But
He hasn't taken it off.
yeah. In spite of the fact that Toby has kind of like worn this robe just seems to maintain a sort of pristine and immaculate quality about it. You've been traveling, in the dust, it's not so much been raining on you as you've been traveling, but you wake up in the morning and the ground is just wet, as you're, traveling. And your robe looks as though it's been freshly laundered, as I've mentioned to you, this sort of effect where you stare at it and, just kind of as you focus on it, you notice that, the constellations within it appear alive, even so to the point of, as I've mentioned before, you'll see, shooting stars across it and things like that. Not constantly, but occasionally, So as you're looking within your robe, I mean to tell you, you certainly don't find anything strange growing within there or anything like that.
Is it just on the inside, or like it looks like a coat on the outside, or is it just like the astral, like?
It's all of the material appears that way, inside and
okay.
outside, yes.
Okay.
The only thing that doesn't appear that way, as I've mentioned to you before, there are kind of like these three, kind of like larger star patterns that kind of like just collar the robe. They
like
don't.
a walking planetarium or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah, and again, it's the thing that if someone's looking at you, they might notice, they might not even recognize that it's a aside from the stars here, they might not recognize that it's star patterns on there. That's something that you like focus on. It could just appear to be the material or what have you.
Okay.
But again, my point with you is your robe, in spite of never having taken it off or washed it since you've owned it, is pretty darn clean. Now, before Toby was kind of, or before you were asking about that, Kristen, and I was explaining that, Harwin was, saying, there's a fungus that only grows certain times of the year, called the black spore.
Yeah.
And I was trying to harvest it myself. And I traveled into the moorlands. And I found some, and I attempted to get it. But it was almost as though the earth came alive and tried to consume me, and it wrapped itself around my throat and crushed my neck, and I barely escaped with my life. And if you could recover some of this black spore for me, I could perhaps give you the information that you seek.
Okay, so you want us...
Another place that the earth is gonna try and eat us?
Probably.
I'm sure.
What if that throat thing happens to me? I quite like speaking. And... why do you want it if it had done this to you?
It did not do this to me. It was growing on something that did this to me.
Mm-hmm. Well...
And as to why I want it, it has many properties that are useful in my line of work.
Yeah.
Well, not only do I worship the Archivist, but I am also the Bloodletter.
Makes sense.
Worshipper
Better.
of who?
Okay, so without affecting the voice, he said, not only do I worship the
Oh, it
Archivist.
just cut out for me, yeah.
Okay, all right. He just said, not only do I worship the Archivist, but I am also a Bloodletter. Now by that, you just take it to mean, a standard kind of healer, of people, or,
Cool.
kind of like a doctor, a medieval doctor,
Well, do you think maybe it could help with the whole,
He kind of
thing?
shakes his head and, I'm afraid it won't help with that.
I'm gonna look to the rest of them and kind of just be like, what do you think?
When looking more interested, once Harwin said that this spore has many different properties.
I mean, I'm starting to feel a little bit sedentary after all this travel, so I could do with a good scrap. I don't know about the rest of you.
I do like fungus. I'm gonna take some for myself.
Oh god.
Oh, Toby. Oh, my goodness.
So,
Junie just can't stop shrugging.
all right, so you all are just kind of like looking around at one another, and he kind of like, raises his drink, and as you look at it, you can tell that, he's kind of got this, wine goblet with this leaded crystal. It doesn't look like what the standard kind of drinkware in this establishment is. It looks more so like he brought it in himself, And as you're looking at it, you can see that there's just kind of like this milky, substance in there.
Peculiar.
What you drinking?
Yeah.
I am drinking absinthe.
No. Fair enough. Well, do we have an accord then? A deal? We get this black spore for you, and you tell us stuff.
That's it. Yeah.
I would say we have an accord. If it suits you and your friends.
Yeah, I mean, if you have information on... If you worship the Archivist, I know you'll have the answer to what I want. And if my compatriots are up for this, then yeah, tell us where to go.
Alright.
All I ask is that we get some sleep first. I just want to go to bed. Junie, you can tell Junie is just like done with everything.
So Junie's addressing the party with that. Sorry.
Yeah.
We sleep. We grab the black spore. Harwin, we'll meet you with the black spore at the library. And I just kind of give a very, like, go along with it, Junie look at her, like, I'm gonna get you to the library if it kills me kind of look.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that plan.
There are 37 locations within Black Sands that might qualify as a library.
Could you name all of them so we could decide what
Oh, goodness.
I just haven't.
Which library do you mean?
I just kind of look at Wynn helpless.
Yeah, same.
All right. When we'll be able to answer the question,
Yeah.
public library in the North Ward, it'll have a name. Next game. Anyway, next session. Anyway, but you all sort that out, and you just kind of have this conversation amongst yourselves. Junie especially wants to get a good bit of rest before traveling on to do anything else like that.
I imagine at this point it's getting quite late in the night, so she just wants to go to bed.
All right. So, with that, Harwin will essentially, kind of like he'll take out a, just kind of like this bound book with parchment, and you can tell he, is carrying, not can tell but he produces this, kind of a pen and inkwell and what have you, and he begins to kind of like scratch out this, scrawl out this rudimentary kind of map onto a piece of parchment, and then he'll tear it out of the book. And
I found it in the moorlands here, about 3 miles outside of the city. I would assume that if you survive, which I imagine you should, as I got away, then I should be able to meet you at the library no later than dusk tomorrow.
Sure. Sounds like fun.
Okay.
Cool.
Yes.
So we do have an accord.
Yes, we do.
he raises his kind of like leaded goblet, and drinks.
Well, your friend seems to want rest, so I'll leave you to it. Thank you.
Yeah. It's fine. Are you staying here? You're from Black Sands, yeah?
I have my own place.
Okay, cool. Cool.
All right.
Why, are you thinking of inviting him into your room?
No, that's not what I was. I just mean like this is a creepy guy that just put his hand on my shoulder and like.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. We know your secret's safe with us. No, okay.
I'm pretty sure I'm starting to understand Wallace's type. just look for the strangest person in the room. The hag, the priest, the
Right?
drunken,
Yes.
depressed bard. Like,
Absolutely.
People.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So Junie's going to stand up and shake his hand and go towards the direction that the rooms are in.
Okay, all right. So Ginny stands up, shakes his hand. He does that. I don't know if you've ever had. When I shake hands, I like to give a full-on firm, handshake. But occasionally, someone will just sort of fish hand me, and they'll just like grab the tips of my fingers or whatever. He does this sort of awkward thing where you don't get a really good handshake on him or whatever, and he just kind of grabs like the tips of your fingers and seems a little awkward about shaking your hand, but he does it nonetheless.
That is very interesting, but okay.
And as you pull your hand away, it's not wet, but you can tell there was some sort of oily substance on the gloves of his hand. On his glove.
Okay.
Please don't leave me alone with him.
All right.
Oily substance.
All right.
Interesting.
you said he smelled like heavily of camphor and stuff like that?
Yeah. Camphor and lavender and...
It's a player question. Does he have leprosy?
He doesn't...
Normally gloves and heavy perfumes in like medieval times are really covering that.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he has leprosy, like a full-on, kind of like affliction right now. It looks more so like he recovered from something,
Okay.
like he was
so it's just
afflicted
kind
by.
of- Cool.
Yeah. All right. So, anyone have anything else that they want to do before they turn in for the night?
Can I insight check this guy, please, before we agree to go and do something for him?
You could.
Well, we've
can.
already agreed, but can I just insight check him anyway?
Sure.
Kay doesn't care. We can
23.
Why not just keep
Okay.
up with
23. I mean, there was nothing that you picked. I mean, he's creepy. He's kind of weird. He smells funny.
He's
But other than
the
that,
creepiest that we've met.
Yeah, like in the back of his mind, Kay's just sitting there like, yeah, we've collapsed a tower on top of a bunch of eyeless and a demon thing. Going fighting a thing and getting a sample of spores feels really kind of normal for us
Yeah.
by comparison.
yeah. So, but to answer your question though, Lewis, I mean, he seems on the up and up. It doesn't seem you can't pick up on anything where it seems like he was trying to deceive you or anything like that, And not that you had an extensive conversation with him about religion or anything, but I mean, the holy symbol seemed to check out. I mean, you knew when you walked in the bar that he was wearing the tavern that he was wearing vestments. So you assume that he's on the up and up.
Okay. With that, I'll probably retire to my room as well, being like, locking my door.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So all of you will retire for the night. It's divided up however you want to. Like I said, make note of the silver that it cost, 5 silver pieces apiece. You stay there for the night, and you will awaken the next morning having slept through the night without incident. And as I mentioned already, this inn is fairly comfortable. I mean, you have decent lodgings, so much better than just sleeping on the ground and waking up covered in dew and shivering, from the morning cold in the spring. So it is a restful night for you all. And I'm not sure who Harwin would have given it to, but since Wallace was largely his interlocutor in that conversation, I imagine he handed over the kind of rudimentary map to him and just kind of gave you basic directions of where to follow,
So he referred to these as the moorlands, right?
Yes.
So total like wetland, swampy bog style.
Yeah.
Yay.
First the woods, now swamp. It's like Kay wakes up with that feeling of like, great, one more place that is really difficult to navigate in super heavy armor.
Yeah. I'm sure that you all will discuss that, Sir Kay having remembered that he mentioned the moorlands, and yes, you associate that with kind of like a swampy, boggy, marshy type area, which makes sense on the coast to where you are, so on the coast of where you
might want to find something to tie the tops of your boots closed. Get a bit disgusting.
And also, I'll remind everyone that you are currently in a community known as Leechfield, or the Leech Fields, or, what have you.
I had temporarily forgotten about that.
So,
this is gonna be fun. I just sort of like... Kay would definitely procrastinate breakfast a little bit. Like, this is one of those things where he wants to fight, but he doesn't want to trudge through the swamp to the fight. So he's kind of like very slowly eating. He's probably the last one to finish his plate at breakfast, which is kind of unusual, and he's just like psyching himself up for it.
All right. So you all will have breakfast. And again, we're going to start tracking more of these things now that you're within the city. So for you all to have a meal, it will be another approximate about three gold. So make note of that.
I'll cover it all.
All right, so Sir Kay covers it.
Just a money bag.
No, I just have 493 gold pieces that I want an even number.
All right. So you take off those 3 gold pieces and you have it.
Literally all of my currency has even numbers right now, guys. It is so satisfying.
All right. Is there anything anyone wants to do, buy, or whatever before you take off for the moorlands?
Yeah, is there like maybe a wee general goods store or that?
Yes.
Yeah, you may certainly find a general goods store. Now, it is currently 9:18, and I would like to move us on a little bit. So, normally, if we had a little more time, I might have you role play that out. But we've had a night full of a lot of role play tonight. So just tell me what you want, and let's say that you go there and purchase it.
I want.
Oh god.
Right. I want healing potions.
Okay.
Poison.
That's really funny.
Wait, you want poison or you want something to deal with poison?
Healing potions and poison.
I want poison. Like, I don't know a specific type, but maybe like, yeah, I want poison. And like rations, I guess, for food.
Okay.
Some acid.
Give me just a second.
Wow.
All right, so I can tell you, I know that the healing potions are 50 gold, I think. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
50 gold. And those will be 2d4 plus 2. So how many of those would you like to buy?
Dang.
2.
All right. So you buy 2 healing potions for a total of 100 gold. And once more, those will heal you 2d4 plus 2. And you find a apothecary shop in kind of like this little cottage sort of industry. It's a person's home, you can tell. It's very similar to Signy. Very nice, Kristen. It's similar to Signy in that you went in there, you could tell that she lived there. There were, herbs, dried things hanging up, animals, stuff like that. Now, regarding your poisons. on the lower end, you might have something like Assassin's Blood, and that's going to run you 150 gold pieces. And then it only goes up from there.
Okay, doesn't matter. I'll leave poison just now. What does that one do? That first one actually.
Okay. So just to meta this, a creature subjected to this poison must make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 1d12 poison damage and is poisoned for 24 hours. On a successful save, the creature takes half damage and isn't poisoned.
Okay, no. It's fine. I will leave that. If I think of anything else, I'll message you.
Okay.
This is a really weird question. Do they sell leeches?
Do they sell leeches? I am certain that you could probably find leeches there.
Can I just like to get a small like glass vial or a flask, like roughly the size of my hand. Get a little bit of almost like a terrarium for leeches going. And just buy a few, put them in there. It is effectively a leech grenade.
Okay. All right.
That is what it is. It is a leech grenade.
All right.
It's effectively just meant to make whatever I throw at panic.
Okay.
It totally won't backfire.
No, not at all.
No.
All right. You'll do that, and we'll say that it'll probably cost you about a silver for what you're asking for there.
How much gold? You cut out for a second.
I just said a silver.
Okay, cool. And I'll even get like Toby in on it and just be like, hey, I'm trying to make this thing. Would you be willing to take care of the leeches for me?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like Toby would totally be down for a leech grenade.
Yeah, he's gonna name them all. How many did you get?
Probably a good like half dozen or so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say there are probably
I'm
20
gonna
in
come up
there.
with names for all of them.
All right. Okay. Anybody else? Is there anything you want before you set off?
Yes. Wynn is going to want about 10 empty vials.
Okay. Let's see. 10 vials. Doo-doo-doo. That's going to be about 10 gold pieces.
Oh,
And I'm sure you can probably get those in the same apothecary shop that everyone is frequenting right now.
How much for 20 arrows?
Twenty arrows. You're using a longbow, correct?
Yes.
I'm only seeing a price for the bows and not the arrows, so I'm sure I'm probably overlooking something. But let's just say 20 arrows, maybe a gold. That's just a guess. If it's more or less, I'll tell you later. Okay?
All right. Yeah. Okay, I'll take them.
All right, so you pick those up. Anyone else?
Yeah, Toby's gonna get two vials. Let's see.
Can we buy a pet?
No.
maybe when we come back, going into the swamp with a pet might not be the best idea.
Eric, your volume is off if you're trying to say something. Okay.
I had it off because I was typing earlier. I was saying Wallace is the pet at this point.
Yes. You are.
But I need to get attached to something, and
Right.
I want like a wee
Wallace can
blink
take
dog or
care of the
something.
leeches.
Don't
All right,
you have
let's
a bird?
let's deal with Toby first. So Toby wants 2 vials, which will be 2 gold.
And a bottle of alcohol. It could be like whiskey or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be negligible. Like, do you want drinkable or do you just want alcohol?
Just alcohol.
Okay, so you buy an astringent something, and we'll say it was maybe a silver or something like that for a good sized bottle of it.
Okay.
Okay.
And for the 2 vials?
2 gold for the vials.
Oh, 2 gold. Okay.
So 2 golds and a silver. Now,
Okay.
is Wallace sated on the pet with people having said wait until after you go into the marsh, the swamp, the
We
moorlands?
have pets. We have 6 of them.
I don't know for this.
Billy, Sally, Sam, Judy, Joel, and
We are-
Joe.
Yeah, he'd listen to one. He'd be like, okay, when we get back, we're going to the pet store.
I will gift you my horse. It hates me anyway.
Medieval pet store.
All right, and yeah, that's a question. Are you taking your horse into the?
I will
moorlands?
not take the horse with me. I'll pay to have it kept at the stable,
Okay.
just because I know it's not going to cross a swamp very well.
Okay. All right. So between last night and this day as well, just to make note of 2 silver on that. So unless anyone else has anything else they want, we have about 34 minutes left. So are you all okay with just kind of speeding things along here?
Charge.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
It'll work.
In that case, I'd like to get us to a stopping point tonight. So I will abbreviate a few things, so apologies for that. But you will take off, and as Harwin had mentioned to you, it is only about 3 miles outside of town, which does not take you very long to cross 3 miles at all whatsoever. You are accustomed to traveling, especially within the last couple of weeks. That being said, you are traveling through swampy, sort of areas. So, as Sir Kay had mentioned to you, if you did not tie up your boots or whatever, and even if you did, I'm sure that your feet are all quite waterlogged after spending, several minutes traipsing through this kind of moorland type area. Now, the thing is, you're doing this in broad daylight, and it's morning, and once again you hear seagulls, you see, ducks and things flying, over the moors. It is quite pleasant, other than you being completely soaked and having to fight the terrain that you are walking through. It's that kind of thing where it's, almost like that gumbo type mud is, and you step in and it just almost sucks and, just like keeps your feet in, and you're having to like fight, and every time it's just like, just doing that kind of like sickening sort of sucking sound as, you're walking through it, and you're fighting that like every single step. So the first thing, as you all are going through here, give me a group con save. So I want con saves all around.
13.
13?
11.
14.
Dirty 20.
12.
14.
Okay. All right. So you are, passing through this marshland, and a couple of you are having, some trouble with it, but overall the group is kind of like able to rally and just sort of like help one another out, and you don't really experience exhaustion because of this. You kind of like, Wallace and Wynn in particular notice people are starting to get a little hot and overheated and, like working too hard, and you all just kind of like, pace yourselves, take it a little easier, and, kind of find like some easier path to go through that's not quite as muddy and not quite as saturated and, sucking your feet into the ground as much. And you continue on in there, and you will spot wildlife as you're doing this, but again, nothing particularly scary or frightening or anything like that, and you'll forge on for a bit longer. And as you're forging on for a bit longer, I need everyone, and this is an independent sort of thing now, you are going to be making another con save, but this time this is just solely for yourself. Hold on to your number, and I'll just come around and ask you all independently. So, Junie, what do you have? Or what does Junie have?
Oh, I think she froze.
Okay, in that case, let's go on to you, Eric. What does Sir Kay have?
22.
22. Sir Kay takes only 15 points of damage, and we'll come back to this damage in just a moment. Kristen, what does Toby have?
17.
Toby takes only 9 points of damage, and we'll come back to that in just a second. What does Wallace have?
Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. Wallace takes only 6 points of damage. Jess, what does Win have?
14.
Win takes 24 points of damage.
Okay.
Yeah, and give me just a second.
Oh dear.
Okay. Now, hopefully we get Shondell back here shortly, and I'll have to remember to
Yeah,
do
she said
some...
she had to pull a quick restart.
Okay. All right, then. In that case, I am just going to kind of shift things... Shift a couple of things around real quick, so as not to confuse anybody too much.
That was a constitution, right?
That was a
Yes.
con save, yes. So now the reason why you made that con save is because as you are traveling through the moorlands... Actually, let me do this first. I don't want to be distracted when I describe this. There we go.
$17 for Shandor.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Shondell, you said you had a 17?
Yeah, 17.
Okay, in that case, Junie takes 16 points of damage. Now, to address this damage that you've taken, as you are traipsing on through this moorland, you all begin to just kind of grow faint and weak, and you're looking around at one another, and you notice that you're quite, just sort of peak and pale. Your flesh has taken on this pallid, almost deathly kind of appearance, and you're looking around at a lot of you, and you're all experiencing this. And just kind of, as you're doing this, you're trying to figure out what's going on amongst yourselves. And Wallace, you notice that Wynn, on her neck, there is like this leech that is attached. And it doesn't look like the leeches that Sir Kay purchased earlier, which were just, fairly small or whatever. This is large, and it's like almost pulsating, with her own heartbeat as blood is being fed into it. And as you look around at others, you notice sort of the same thing. And then you look at yourself, and you see that you all have these massive leeches attached to you that are just kind of like sucking away your life blood.
Can I start sucking the leech?
Oh.
I mean...
To get it off me and like bite it.
No. Oh, gosh.
You can certainly do that.
I want to bite his head off.
All right. Now, you bite into the leech. And as you do that, it almost kind of like burst in your mouth, as it was quite full of this blood that it was sucking from you. And in addition to this sort of like, iron, blood kind of like taste in your mouth, there is also this kind of very pungent, earthy, and kind of like salty seawater sort of taste in there as well. And it's kind of stringy, more so than you would think it would be. Also a bit slimy as well.
I'm gonna quote Simba here: slimy yet satisfying. I'm just pure like...
Oh, wow.
Alright. Everyone else observes this.
don't even know where to go from here.
Right? Yeah, no. I think I'm gonna. It's where's the leech again on her necks?
You have several attached to you,
I don't know
and
if
again,
it's-
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But I still have like full movement for the most part, right?
Yes, you can still move.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take out my dagger and try to get them off of me.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything.
All right. So you begin, trying to pry them off of you, and you are able to just kind of like scrape them off. I don't even require a roll for that or anything like that. You're able to get them off, and everyone sees Junie kind of like working at this. How is Junie? In the past she's been a little frantic about things like this. Is she a little more calm now, or how's this? How's she dealing with this?
She's okay. I mean, her hysteria has definitely been quieted a lot, but at the end of the day, she's just really, really tired of all this BS going on.
Okay. All right.
She's just gonna do whatever she has to do to get out of situations.
All right. What is everyone else doing regarding these leeches?
I'm following suit, popping them off, but everyone I pop off, I'm putting in the leech grenade.
All right.
That thing is going to terrify whoever it hits.
Yes, and again, I will mention there is a disparity between the size of those leeches and the ones that you are placing in there
I'm
right now.
basically going to let them eat the smaller ones if they.
All right.
Aww. I already named them.
The new ones
That's
too.
so sad.
All right.
Circle of life, man.
Toby's just kind of like, oh god.
Yeah, Wynn's starting to pop them off, but she'll stick one in one of her vials, seeing Sir Kay do that as well.
All right. So she does that. What were you saying Toby's doing, Kristen?
He's just gonna use chill touch to like kind of wipe them off.
Okay.
It just deals like necrotic damage. I mean, he would have to roll to hit, but like they're tiny. So.
Yeah, that's not going to be a problem at
Yeah.
all whatsoever. They aren't
So
really
he just
moving.
kind of like has like a ghostly like skeletal hand that like comes out and like helps it like flick them off.
All right. Okay. And then Wallace has already resolved how he's kind of handling his. From there, I'm sure that you will continue on and you will follow this map. And again, it's you're not going some great distance here, and you will follow it to an area that it's not so much that you've emerged from the moorlands, but you find some more kind of like sure footing, and there aren't really any forest in this area, but there's a lot of like deadfall and debris and things like that, stuff that looks like it's washed far inland from the ocean from, I don't know, perhaps a hurricane once upon a time, or something like that. And as you all are traveling, how are you doing so across the land?
I mean, it's like really muddy.
Yeah, but you've like traversed past the worst of it that you've seen so far. You've got more sure footing, is what I'm trying to tell you right now. Your feet aren't
are we
sinking
able to
into-
just like walk across the land,
Mhm.
or
It's pretty flat, except for like all of this kind of like deadfall and debris and things like that you find yourself passing. There are
Just kinda,
tall
like,
grasses
take our
that you're
time.
walking through. What's that?
just kind of like take our time, I guess.
Okay.
Try to like get past all this debris.
All right, Eric, you got to turn your volume back on.
Keep forgetting to turn it back on after I type something. I'm just gonna keep an eye in case there's anything that doesn't seem natural about the deadfall, like if there's some unnatural movement within the grass, like we're being followed by something, that kind of deal.
That's a perception 18.
Anything?
Yeah,
that
you've got a
seems
perception of passive
out of
perception of
place.
18. Yeah. So, you all are kind of like taking your time, making your way across these moors, and without a doubt, as you're kind of like passing through this area that Harwin has kind of sent you to, Eric, give me a perception roll for Sir Kay.
Let's see here. 14.
Okay. What was your passive perception?
Wen's passive perception is now 16.
16. Okay. All right. So, and it doesn't even matter. I'm almost certain that everyone has a passive perception higher than what I just rolled. So, as you are all kind of like walking, you will notice like one of these like large mounds of kind of like debris begins to kind of like shuffle. And it's almost as if the ground itself is moving, quickening, as just kind of like these vines and roots and bits of like limbs and dead wood and just various things that are composed from the ground surrounding it just kind of form this huge mass. And, it sounds as you might expect something like that would. Just think of the sound of a tree cracking in the wind or, things like that. You hear this wood just kind of like scraping against itself. And you turn to see exactly what I've described for you. It has almost a humanoid kind of bearing to it, in that there are things that resemble limbs, but it's not quite like bipedal or quadruped or whatever. There are like multiple limbs. It has a vaguely recognizable form. It doesn't appear to be a thing from nature like a tree or something like that, but it's composed of all these disparate parts like tree and grass and root and vine and things like that. It makes no noise other than the sound of its movement. It doesn't call out to you. It doesn't say anything to you. It doesn't moan. It doesn't scream. It doesn't do anything like that. It just moves with the sound of its nature. And you all should roll initiative.
Just creaks in our general direction.
Yep.
4.
That one.
All right.
Oh, God.
Eric, would you keep track of our...
Yep. Junie still did better than me. You have a nat 1. I also have a nat 1, but I have a minus 1.
Oh no.
I got a 19.
Okay.
Oh, me too.
4.
What's the higher dex between you two?
I'm guessing Win does.
All right.
I have a 12 dexterity.
The thing that you're facing down also has a 4. Wallace will go first, though.
Oh!
I'm tiny and sneaky. Yeah.
Tiny, yes. Sneaky, no.
Try to be.
I'm gonna call it a shambling mound.
Yeah.
Because I, as a player, have a fairly decent idea of what it is. So Wallace and Shambling Mound are both at 4, correct? You said, RJ?
Yes.
Yep, we're all set. Toby's up first.
All right. What does Toby want to do?
He's just gonna detect magic on it. I mean, it's not like doing anything to us right now, so.
Right. He can tell for sure that it's advancing, and it is emanating magic.
Okay. I mean, can I detect like a certain school or like?
Yeah, with
is
your
it-
detect magic, you can certainly detect a type of school. It's not like necromantic or anything like that, and I don't really know what the proper school would be. I can tell you it's not necromantic. It won't be conjuration. Let's see, what else? What is there?
It's not like-
Evocation?
it's not an illusion. It's not.
No, it's definitely not an illusion. Okay.
Yeah.
It just has again, it has a magical aura to it. You can tell that this very much appears as though it was probably once just deadfall and debris and stuff like that, but something quickened it and brought it to life. And it was a magical process that brought it to life. Now, just, again, I'd love to give you a school, but I don't know what's most appropriate here. But I can tell you it does have a magical aura to it.
I mean, yeah, it kind of sounds like conjuration, or
Yeah.
that might be. Okay. Yeah, he's just gonna like kind of stare at it, take a little like inventory of all the pieces, and yeah, just kind of take it all in.
Okay. Who's next?
All right. So this thing's coming towards us?
Most certainly.
Okay. So with my action, I am going to cast 2nd level Cure Wounds on myself. For 13 points. Bonus action, I am going to Rage. And then I am... how far is it?
From you now, it's about 30 feet away.
Yeah, I'll rush toward it.
All right. So, when Hills herself pulls out, are you still using your scimitar?
Still using that club.
Oh, still using your club. All right. So
Yeah.
you rush forward with the club that you had gathered from the eyeless, and you charge it. And you get right up on it. It smells just kind of like the earth, is essentially, which would normally be kind of like a soothing sort of scent to you, but you've never really seen, the earth move quite like this before. So,
Okay.
all right. Who's next?
Next up is either Wallace or the creature.
Wallace will take initiative on this.
I'm gonna cast Guiding Bolt at it.
All right.
And that is a dirty 20.
That will hit. Give me damage.
$19 points of damage.
All right.
That is yes, same.
What
yeah,
kind of?
can you
That's
just-
radiant damage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What were you saying?
Advantage on next time. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of like bring up my hand and just sort of like launch, and it's kind of like this purplish energy. It almost looks like the wings of them, but then the actual body of the moth shoots out like an arrow into the mouth.
All right. Yeah. So you take your hands, and this divine energy streaks forth from you, and finds its way home within the mound somewhere. And this radiant energy sort of like sears bits of debris, and it catches flame here and there and smolders. And now, when
Yes.
you're right up on it,
Yes.
what's your AC?
Is 16.
16. All right. So, without there really being a face or anything like that, you can tell that its form pivots towards you, as you've approached it. And part of it kind of like lunges for you, and then just kind of like goes right past, and like these bits of like leaf and vine or whatever just kind of like scratch across the side of your face as another bit of it shifts and then comes up and slams directly into you. 21 points of damage as it slams into
What type
you.
of damage is that?
Bludgeoning.
Bludgeoning.
Yes.
Raging roll.
A barbarian.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay then.
All right.
Junie's up after.
Just a second.
Alright.
When you need to make a, you can choose either strength or dexterity, whichever one is most advantageous for you, and make a save.
Alright, I will do strength saving throw since I get to do that at advantage.
Okay.
And that would be a 19.
19. Okay. So as its form slams into you, these vines began kind of like entangling your body, you know. But you are able to just kind of like in your rage rip away, you know, vines come loose from it, tear loose, you know, bits of wood splinter as, you know, you kind of like halt out of its grasp, you know. Now, who's next?
Junie.
Okay. I'm gonna go at it with my longsword.
With advantage.
Sorry?
You get advantage
Yeah,
because of his
advantage.
guiding bolt.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll take that. 24.
24 hits. Give me damage.
Is 9 damage.
All right. Does Junie have another attack or anything else?
I'm going to believe disengage so I can move a little like away from it just in case.
Okay. Does Junie actually have like a disengage
No, it'll be your bonus action.
bonus action?
Yeah.
I think disengage is an action unless you're a rogue girl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is.
So you would incur an attack of opportunity if you backed up.
Sorry, you can't get over there.
You would incur an attack of opportunity if you backed away from it. It would get to strike at you as you're backing up.
Yeah, okay, never mind. Scratch that. Forget I said it.
Okay. All right. So Junie runs forward, wielding her long sword, and she slices into it. And again, you know, you cut off chunks. You know, hack off chunks of this debris that it's composed of. But it still stands. Who's next?
Question really quick though. Does anything grow back?
You haven't you haven't witnessed like any kind of regenerative capabilities or anything like that.
So like once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, these things are falling down and you don't see it growing like new parts or anything like that.
Okay. I was just thinking of being magic, like maybe it like reattaches branch, I don't know, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
Next up is me. I just smacked my knee off my desk and did like that funny bone thing you can do with your knee. So I've been like quietly in pain. I'm just gonna pull the greatsword and be like, yes, finally something I can hit that's not inches. And I'm gonna walk up with the greatsword. I'm gonna take 2 attacks, and if the first one hits, I'll drop a 2nd level divine smite into it for fun, because I can do that now.
All right. Give me an attack roll.
First one's a 15.
15 will not hit.
Damn. Okay. Second one. That's a 16.
16 will hit.
Oh, cool. So that'll get the divine smite, just because I can pick which one it does. And this is the great sword, so it'll be 8 points of slashing damage, if that matters, and then 3d8 radiant for the divine smite. 20 points total.
20 points total? Alright.
8 of that slashing, 12 of that is radiant.
Alright.
Oh, sorry. 23 because of the bonus to the greatsword.
Got it. Alright, so Cirque charges forward, wielding this great sword, slashing at it, barely missing with his first strike, swinging back around, following through, cleaving off, searing off large portion of it, as, I don't know, does your sword glow with this divine energy as you're smiting, or how does your smite come across?
It's less of like an out-and-out glow as it is like that kind of borealis color light that flickers through him whenever he casts magic.
Yeah.
You kind of see that, but it's almost like a glare off the sword rather than an actual like glow.
Alright.
Kind of like it's just catching this borealis light in a really weird way.
Yeah. So he goes through with that, and then there's like, this large wish as like a huge chunk of like foliage, falls to the ground. Who's next?
Back to the top of the round for Toby.
Alright, Toby, what's going on this attack, this round?
He yells, Eldritch Blast! And gets a 16.
16 will hit.
Eldritch Blast.
Sorry, whenever I think of him...
Huh?
Whenever I think of him casting Eldritch Blast, all I can think of is that he's small enough that it like pushes him backwards 5 feet.
Yeah, he's got that kickback.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Kickback that he doesn't know how to handle. Yeah. Yeah. For 10 points, yeah,
For
that
10
certainly
points.
kicks
Alright.
him back a little.
Yeah.
Knocks him on the bit.
So Toby stays where he is and just kind of like yells his Eldritch Blast, and this force comes forth from his hand and just hits center mass into this large bit of forest foliage, and it kind of like all shakes and quivers, and bits of it fall and drop here and there. Now, who's next?
Good question.
Yeah.
Kristen, at level 5, don't you get 2 shots with Eldritch Blast?
I do. I forgot it was at 5. Nice. Yeah.
You get to go full finger guns.
Pew. Yeah, that's definitely gonna. Well, see if I hit.
Do you have to roll
yeah.
a second time, or do you just do more damage?
We do it for each.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But that one was 21.
Okay, all right. What's the damage on that one?
So that was 11. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
kick him back.
All right.
It's like when someone gets electrocuted in the movies and it's like.
So good.
All right. So not one, but two. Toby releases 2 of those, Eldritch Force Blast, and even more so of it, just kind of like discorporates and falls to the ground. Now, who's next?
Oh my goodness.
After that is when?
When?
How is this thing not dead?
I'll swing at it with my club. That is a 23.
23 hits.
With 5 bludgeoning and 1 piercing damage.
And going clubbing has a whole different meaning for barbarian.
All right. Was Wallace next?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, yeah, Junie, you had recently, experienced this slam attack. It almost engulfed you, but you were able to break free, and then, again, just wielded this club that you've been holding on to from the eyeless, and just kind of swing through it, and, just bits of leaf and vine and stuff shatter and splitter and go everywhere. Now, Wallace.
I'm gonna cast. cast on my bonus action spiritual weapon. And yeah, I get to make a attack on it, like a ranged attack.
Go ahead.
Natural 20.
All right. Give me damage on
So that's 19 points of damage on that, and
that. This is from your spiritual
then-
weapon.
yep, and then for my action I'm going to cast Guiding Bolt.
Can't cast 2 level spells.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, you can
Can
cast.
I cast a cantrip? Okay, well in that case I'll cast Sacred Flame on.
Okay.
So that's a DC 14.
14.
Dex.
All right. Nothing on that. Okay. So this thing is ambling, but it's not moving very quickly or whatever. But your sacred flame just does not find purchase within its mass. However, your spiritual weapon did. Now, remind me again, what's your spiritual weapon look like?
It's just my head, but
Right.
really big.
So, just this
Totally
huge,
You said it was your head?
huge. Wallace's spiritual weapon literally looks like his own head, just huge,
that's
and it just headbutts and
terrifying.
slams into things. So, this.
Oh goodness.
And it does it within the mass of this mound, and shakes part of it apart. Yeah. So that takes us back to it. Now, Junie's there, Wynn is there, and Sir Kay is there. Get right up on it. So let's see. 2, 3. All right, Wynn, it's coming back at you again.
Of course.
What'd you say your AC is?
16.
You're going to take another 18 points of damage. And then on top of that, I need another strength save. Or, is Wynn still conscious?
Yes, she is, because that was 18
Nine.
points total, so
Yeah. And it is bludgeoning still, so.
yeah, so she's still conscious. She still has 10 hit points.
Okay.
12 for the strength save.
12. Okay. All right. Whereas last time you kind of like were able to rip loose of these tendrils and vines and things that had wrapped around your body, you're kind of like growing weaker as it continues these attacks upon your body, and this time it actually pulls you within its own form, and you feel that all of this material around you is just like bearing down on you, and you sustain. Hold on just a second. Okay, not this turn, but you feel like the pressure of its form just kind of like beginning to constrict around you, and you can tell that if you remain within its mass, that you won't survive for long. So, that takes us to Junie. Shondale, what's she doing? You just saw this thing slam into Wynn, and all of these tendrils wrap around her and pull her within its form as she begins to scream as she's trying to get away from it.
Okay. Can I? Okay. So question. As things are being like cut off of this thing, do they just kind of become the forest again?
They just fall to the ground like deadfall.
Okay. So if I am able to slash the tendrils that have been tied up, she'll essentially be released. Correct?
It's going to be hard to do that, given that you don't really see Wynn's form anymore. Again, this is a very large mound, and it's kind of like been pulled inside and engulfed.
Okay.
she's been pulled inside and engulfed within it.
Okay. Okay, well, either way, I'm going to slash at it with my longsword and hope for the best.
Okay. Do that.
16.
16 will strike. Give me damage.
12.
Okay. Alright, so Ginny takes a moment trying to figure out how she might help Wen. Doesn't really see a way, so she just begins to hack away at it and pieces fly and fall. Now, Sir Kay is next, is that correct?
Yep. Sorry, I'm reading a spell.
Okay.
I was gonna consider casting Sleep on Shambling Hound, but then I realized it would probably affect Wind too.
But I'm
So-
an elf.
So you just have.
Oh
That isn't
yeah, that's
sleep.
right. You can't be put to sleep by magical means.
No.
I'd like to cast Sleep targeting a point within 90 feet, so that only the Shambling Mound is in the radius.
Okay. Now tell me, how does that spell affect? What does it affect exactly? What does it say?
Okay, so I roll 5d8. The total is how many hit points worth of creatures I can affect. Creatures within 20 feet of a point you choose within range are affected in ascending order of their current hit points. So it ignores unconscious creatures, but like lowest hit points within range are knocked out first, going up from there.
Okay. Alright, roll your hit dice and let me know what you got.
8, 10, 16, 24, 30. It has less than 30 hit points.
It is not affected by your sleep spell.
Oh. Good use of a
dear.
first level spell. Yeah, that's all I can do.
Alright. So you attempt this, and
Fourth shot.
again you say your words and cast the spell, and you can tell that you cast the spell upon it, but it wasn't affected by it. So, Toby. You gotta turn your volume on, Kristen.
That would be helpful. He's gonna use Chill Touch again, like thinking on the Legion.
Okay.
Maybe he'll work on this.
Alright.
Where's so that's 17.
17. That will hit.
And oh my dear. It's just 3 points of necrotic damage.
Okay.
Multiple.
Alright, so this spectral hand comes out, goes within the
Oh wait,
form.
I can get an extra D8 at 5th level. So
Okay.
8 points, yeah.
Alright, so this spectral hand goes out, it touches the form of the mound. Parts of the plant wither and fall to the ground. Is that Wen's turn? Wen, you need to give me another, or you need to give me a Constitution saving throw this time.
Con save?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That one.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Drowning in a mound. Here we go.
Alright, you take 15 points of damage as you are within its form and you cannot breathe, you're constricted, you're being crushed, you're blinded, you can't find your way out of here at all.
Would that damage be halved by her rage?
I don't know.
It's suffocating.
Because
It's
I would
suffocating.
still be in rage. As long as I'm taking damage every turn, I'm still in my rage, even if I don't attack.
It's still bludgeoning damage, so yeah, as long as you're enraged. So
Okay.
I think that means you're still awake.
Yes. I have 3 hit points left.
Oh dear.
Oh, wow.
all right.
Goodness.
I have to like Temple of Doom a shambling mound just to get her out of there.
Alright.
All right, that takes us to Wallace.
Right, so see how I cast Spiritual Weapon on my last? I can use it as a bonus action on my turns now. So see if I use that as my bonus action, can I then cast Guiding Bolt as an action?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not recasting the spell.
Cool, I'm going to do that.
Okay. Which one are you doing first?
My bonus action, Spiritual Weapon.
All right.
So that's 19 to hit, so that hits.
19 hits.
And that's only 4 points of damage. Now I'll cast Guiding Bolt on it.
Okay.
It is 16.
16 to hit. Hits.
Gonna take us forever to kill this thing.
And
I hope
that's
not.
17 points of damage.
Trying.
All right.
Hey, Junie's done more damage than I have. And I have Smite.
Okay. All right. So once again, you know, this image of your head just slams into it, and then you release this radiant energy into it, and large bits of it, fall. And you can tell that you are most certainly wearing this thing down. I mean, it's all haphazard and shoddy, and you're beginning to see wind within its form as parts of it break off. But it's still up, and Tsukei's there, and Junie's there. It's engulfed
Ladies first.
one. Oops, wrong one. All right, Junie, what's your AC?
Said ladies first is a joke. I didn't mean it seriously.
What is it?
12.
12. Okay.
Which I need to double check. I'll do that later though.
One of its attacks misses you, but the one that hits you slams into your chest and just completely knocks all the wind out of you. In fact, you cough up a bit of blood as it does it, as you take 32 points of damage from this slam. And
I'm out.
out completely.
Hang on. Like, okay. 32 you said?
32 points of damage.
Yeah, so I'm at -7 hit points. So yeah, I'm out.
All right. Now, with that, you all see that it is engulfed wind, and it brings Junie within its form as well. And that takes us to Sir Kay.
I just watch it try to absorb Junie when I'm just like, boy, stop being greedy. And just take 2 more swipes at it.
Not
All right.
gonna work.
That's what you think. I'm gonna roll the metal dice for this one. It's a natural 20.
All right.
I'm gonna drop my other 2nd level Divine Smite into this.
Okay.
Because I can choose to do that after a hit. Oh, Paladin crits, man. So satisfying. So... 5, 10. That's... Sorry, gotta look at the thing. So the slashing damage on this is going to be 22 points of slashing damage. And here comes the radiant. 11, 12, so 24 points of radiant on top of that.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you paint the picture for what happens here. So how do you want to do this as you take it out?
For once, Kay is not just swinging wildly hacking at this thing. Is now 2 of his friends side of it. So he's just gonna like, as it's standing there trying to eat Junie. Sorry. He's just gonna like take a second. He's gonna kind of take the point of the blade and line it up, and then like sink it into the hilt and turn it sideways and just separate the thing between Junie and Win, so that they kind of just like fall sideways out of it.
Okay.
As it falls apart.
Nice.
And as he does that, there's the sound kind of like of a large tree kind of like cracking, just this kind of like thunderous as it separates and falls to the ground. Now, I do believe Wynn was still conscious, correct?
I was still barely awake, yes.
You know, so I'm sure as that happens, you know, she's just kind of like, you know, screaming and pulling, you know, these parts off of her, you know, still kind of like breathing heavily within this rage that she had been in. And then you look around and Junie is on the ground and not stirring. Now, real quick, Junie, give me a death saving throw because it would be your turn right now.
I've never actually done a death save.
All right. So just roll 1d20 and tell me what the number is. Don't add anything to it.
13.
13. All right, so that's one pass. So,
Yeah.
again, you see her on the ground. She's bruised and bloodied and...
I think I'm closest and like has a free hand, so I'm just going to drop a point of lay on hands into her to wake her up quick, and then we can heal her up more once she's awake.
Okay.
While he's doing that, I'm just kind of hitting the remains of this creature.
All right, you're continuing to bash in part of
Making
its
sure it's
form
Pointedly,
with your club.
pointedly
Yes.
not wanting to win.
Right. But yes, she's screaming, just repeatedly striking it, you know, with her club. Now,
That's actually a really awesome mental image.
yeah, I think so too. So we've gone a bit over time. So I do want to say that as you are all around and you kind of like get your bearings about you and you see that you're not being attacked anymore, as you're looking around, especially when, you know, you're not really familiar with black spore at all, but as you're looking at it, I mean, you see this, you know, pitch black fungus that is growing on parts of it here and there, and you can easily cultivate, you can easily, you know, take some of it, much of it, you know, you could harvest all of it. Harvest was the word I was looking for, from its form. And again, it's just, you know, this black fungus. As you go to touch it and pull it apart, you'll see kind of like just wisp of just kind of like this black powder that kind of comes off of it as you're, you know, pulling it apart, and it has kind of like a strange odor to it as you smell it. Now, we will kind of like end here with you all harvesting this, and we'll kind of like pick up next time with you have successfully having harvested this black spore. Now, before we go for the night, anybody have anything they want to plug, say, anything like that? Before we do that, I want to say I'm happy to be playing with y'all again. So I've missed these last couple of weeks and having our sessions. So, Shondell.
You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch at Shandy Valley. And well, once I get my new GPU, which will be either Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be back streaming Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays.
Awesome. Eric.
Yes.
Yeah, you can find me at Eldritch Crow on Twitter and Discord. I'm an admin for the Playcasters Discord, so any tabletop RPG podcasters or streamers out there, come find us. We want new friends all the time. And I kind of got a cool project coming up for July 1st in terms of a major kind of world-building setting project that I'm going to be releasing through World Handle and Patreon and stuff like that. So I'm super excited. It's going to be the setting I'm running my next D&D campaign in, writing a bunch of stories in. So keep an eye for that. I'm super excited.
Looking forward to it. Kristen.
Hello. You can find me on Twitter at the IT Pirate Now. I'll be playing in a charity game for my friend dog who is really sick. He is big in the streaming community, and took a break for just life reasons. But we're gonna have some great friends playing on the Friday night stream at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So it should be a lot of fun. We're, I don't know, going through some weird pastel dungeons and trying to save a dog. So it'll be wacky and fun. Yeah, I stream on Sunday nights for or on Pro Starters channel as well, and have a monster lore podcast called Roll for Lore. All the things. So
Awesome.
and it was good to be back. It felt like forever. So
Yeah, it did. And just a question real quick. I saw your tweet earlier, but I was pretty busy today and didn't have a chance to get back to you. So are you in this game on Friday? Are you going to play the ASMR bard?
yeah. It's crazy because you were like, I got this idea for a bard, and I was like, I just put that in Roll20 yesterday.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're like, yeah,
Awesome.
It's crazy. Like exactly that character. But yeah, we're gonna start at level 10, and then based on like donations, we could either go a level down, a level up. It's gonna just be chaos,
Lord.
and I love it.
If I had the money, I would cause you so much trouble.
Yeah, no, there's so many things that you can do, and I think there's gonna be like dog type themed things that you can donate. Like I think it was a one K9 or like there's all these dog themed like donation bits that you can give. So yeah, it'll be wacky and crazy.
You need to put that channel in the chat because I need to see this.
Yeah.
And like the people that I'm playing with, I've played with her, and they're super silly and fun, and also like pretty big in the streaming community. So yeah, I hope everyone will join us. And I named a character after this dog, so it's a dog that likes to interrupt our streams quite often, and is near to my heart.
Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome. I hope to be able to check it out.
Yeah.
Lewis.
You can find me on Discord and Twitter at NexusDM, and yeah, that's about it. I don't have anything else exciting going on right now.
Okay. All right. Cool. Jess.
Well, other than moving, I don't have anything very exciting going on. I'm moving weekend, finally out with parents. So that's great, and hopefully this will settle me down and get things back to normal so I can be posting on Twitter at Rotia1, ROHTIA1, and at Palace_Fairy.
Awesome. Well, the move sound exciting. Good luck with everything with that. Let's see. A couple of things before we all get off here tonight. I think we had a few people join us in chat and kind of hang out with us, and just wanted to say that we appreciate that very much. Unfortunately, I can't pay too much attention to it, but I've got it over here, and I just see that some people are interacting, and thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. Another thing, we have our first sponsor for our streams. So Astral Tabletop is sponsoring us now, and I just got all of the software stuff, and I'm working on figuring it out. It is really, really cool, and I look forward so much to incorporating that into our stream. It looks like there are a lot of awesome tools that we will be able to use with Astral. So I am looking forward to that, and hopefully next week, fingers crossed, we will be using that to facilitate some exciting things on our stream. So that is really cool. In addition to that, I will be starting a second stream on Thursday night, still within the Tainted Lands, just a different area and a new batch of players. So that is also exciting. So yeah, a few things going on with the stream. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at RJ_Cresswell. As usual, I post a lot of stuff about Dungeons and Dragons, and occasionally review things and do giveaways and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it for me. As always, I appreciate you all showing up tonight and playing, and I'm so glad we're playing again. And I will plan on seeing you all next Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right.
So
Night,
glad
everybody.
to be back, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Cool.
Had fun.
Yeah. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
See ya.
Bye.